welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television, and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Mr. Andrew Meadows.
Colton Brown, how are you doing this lovely afternoon?
Evening, I would say, but I would say that I'm doing pretty well. I'm very excited because I think this is a first in Watch, Review, Repeat history. We are covering neither film nor television. We are covering a musical, a stage musical, a filmed version of a stage musical, but and a musical that has set the world ablaze for years now. It is the one, the only Hamilton. So,
Alexander Hamilton.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yep.
So we talked about it the last episode we did, which was a pseudo news episode, and we talked about a movie, to be fair, but basically we pretty much primed this episode as being, hey, we wanted to get the news out of the way because we knew that we were going to be excited to talk about Hamilton, and alas, here we are. We're excited to talk about Hamilton. We have all seen it, and when I say all, I of course also mean one Anna Mattis, who is our resident Hamilton expert, our resident musical expert, who is joining us on this episode. So welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
Hi there. I think you also had to make sure there wasn't too much news because I talk too much. So you knew it would be a longer main segment with me here. So good job. That was a good preparation there.
It's Colton always tending to the housekeeping.
There you go. Also, Andrew, I know that Florida is basically a different planet, but up here it is, number one, not lovely. It's pouring rain, and also 9 p.m. is definitely not the afternoon, sir.
I said afternoon because I'm actually not in Florida right now. I'm actually in a different time zone. I happen to be in
Are you?
Texas right now, and it is quite a lovely afternoon. Nah, I'm lying. I'm in Florida. I just don't know my words.
It's entirely possible the listeners might have bid on that, but when we can see the man cave, which I know is definitively located in Florida,
green
I would have
screen.
been very, very impressed if you managed to transport that whole set behind you.
My thinking was, how many mimosas has he had?
I'm
Clearly,
in
those are
Texas.
getting you confused, making you think it's the morning too.
Lord have mercy.
So anyway, it is going to be a very good episode. I think we're all very, very excited to talk about Hamilton. And on the note of Hamilton, I thought it would be fun if we talked about some fun facts related to the musical, to Mr. Hamilton himself, whatever anyone has on their plate. I welcome any fun facts from either Andrew or Anna. If anyone wants to step up to the plate, have at it.
I have some fun facts. They're money related, which I thought was interesting. Lin-Manuel Miranda's net worth is currently, as of June of 2020, is at $45.5 million, which I thought was pretty interesting. And he earns a 3% royalty on every performance of Hamilton. And I think it's earned him, according to this article, which it's not an article, I guess it's on Wikipedia. But it's earned him $12.7 million as of July of 2017. So who knows what happened when Disney bought the rights to it for $75 million.
That is wild. And I feel like also just everything else he's doing too is probably making him a shit ton of money between, he did Moana, and now he's writing new music for Little Mermaid, and one of his other musicals, In the Heights, is going to be a movie next summer. I think it's supposed to be out. We got the trailer a few months ago. And then also, he does have another musical, and it's Bring It On. But that already was a movie. And then he also was on that show that was The Golden Compass, but I forget. Or no. Yes. But His Dark Materials. That's what it's called. Oh my God. That totally just lost. My brain stopped working for a minute. But yeah, he's clearly got a lot of places he's bringing in the money.
Dude I think he might be the most talented man to walk the earth. I think so. He is, fun fact. I don't know this is a fun fact. I don't know if it's entirely accurate, but I think it's pretty accurate. You can correct me, Anna. Did he write all the songs for Hamilton, the musical we're about to talk about?
Yeah, he did book, music, and lyrics.
That is
so he did all of it. Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, I think he ended up spending like 7 years working on it, because the first time he actually performed something from it, it was like the opening number, Alexander Hamilton, and it was just him, but it was at the White House for an event. I forget what the actual event was, but President Obama asked him to go and perform this. So that was like the first place he performed it, and that was 2009, I think.
Wow.
And then 7 years later, it actually, I guess it was 2013 that it technically was finished, and it was doing like the workshop stuff at a college. I forget which one, but yeah.
Crazy talented individual.
Very crazy talented. Seems to be working nonstop, if I do say so myself. I was going to say the video that Anna just mentioned at the White House, you can actually find that online. I stumbled on it a few days ago, and it was kind of fun to watch that. And he's a little younger, but he's still got it, definitely. So, I think in terms of other fun facts, Anna has one. She is signaling to me, so we'll kick it over to her.
I actually have two, because I thought of another one that's kind of cool, sort of. So I am from upstate New York, and while I'm technically from Niskuna, which is a suburb of Schenectady, and yeah, you do need to know how to spell those. They're right next to Albany, which is the capital, and also where it actually gets some references in the musical, both as the center of corruption and also as, upstate with the Schuyler sisters' father, Philip Schuyler. So we have in Albany a museum that's actually the Schuyler Mansion, and it was like Philip Schuyler's home.
This is insane. I'm going to look it up right now.
And I actually haven't been because while now people may think of Philip Schuyler as, the Schuyler sisters' dad, he's really more well known for being like the largest slave holder in New York.
Wow.
So actually the guy was a real piece of shit. And we recently had in Albany a statue of him taken down and moved to the museum. It's, moved where it belongs. But yeah, so it's just kind of an interesting, I feel like they don't really talk about Philip Schuyler so much as except as being, the father-in-law who got beat by Aaron Burr. But yeah, there's a little more to Philip Schuyler. But my other fun fact, which is more musical related than historically, is that it's probably my favorite fun fact about Hamilton, because there are so many, and there are so many like references within the lyrics that Lin-Manuel did. But my favorite is it's actually a twofold reference. So it's the lyric that I feel like Angelica or Eliza says it. But they say, "Screw your courage to the sticking place." And that is both a reference to Macbeth, which of course also gets some references in Hamilton.
That for sure. Mm-hmm.
And the, mocking of the old theater, like jinx that like you can't mention Macbeth, but then he's like, the next line I mentioned Macbeth. But it's also actually a line from Beauty and the Beast in the mob song when Gaston and like the villagers are going to kill the beast. And Lin-Manuel was very aware of that, because that's his favorite song from Beauty and the Beast. Huh. So it's a fun little double reference there.
Fun little fun fact.
Fun facts abound on this episode, but they don't stop here. I have one more, and this probably is a little bit closer to what Andrew brought to the table, in the sense that I guess a little bit more financial based, or at least a little bit more, I don't know, not necessarily about the musical itself, but it's actually about the distribution platform that the musical itself arrived on. Andrew, you mentioned that Disney spent $75 million to secure the rights to distribute the filmed adaptation of Hamilton, and it seems to be money well spent, if the numbers are any indication. So it debuted on July 4th on Disney Plus, or July 3rd, I guess, technically, for the July 4th weekend, I should say, 4th being a Saturday. I should also say happy belated 4th. And if you hear fireworks going off, it's because Philadelphia is convinced that every day is the 4th. But yeah, Disney has seen a huge spike in terms of downloads of Disney Plus, subscriptions to Disney Plus. I'm seeing numbers, I'm just reading here from a Variety article, that the total Disney Plus downloads were 74% higher than the average of the 4 prior weekends over comparable time periods. And worldwide app downloads were almost 50% higher this past weekend than the same average that it was comparing it to. And this is all coming at a time where I think Disney has since removed the free trial option, meaning that people subscribing to it are at least buying in for a month, which, to be fair, I think we have said multiple times we feel it's a pretty considerable value for what is actually the price, certainly compared to its competitors like HBO Max, which is twice the price and not available on many major streaming things. But so it seems to be doing quite well.
What is the price right now for Disney Plus, like monthly? Because I share mine with a friend, just because you can have unlimited users, and she and I split it, but she was part of like the movie club, and So we only pay $3, but
yeah, it's $7 a month, $6.99 a month, or $70 a year, which I'm sure the math checks out there to save you a little bit of money. So yeah, I mean, I think it really, even compared to Netflix and stuff like that, it's well short of that. And Anna and I talked about this, I think, after Hamilton arrived, in that I feel like Disney Plus has had a little bit of a lull in terms of original content, and not that Hamilton is necessarily original content, but it's at least exclusive content. And so it kind of came at like this perfect time where we had Mandalorian to start, and obviously we love that, but it hasn't been a whole lot.
Hamilton's a big
new stuff.
That is
but Hamilton was like, yeah, that's like that. I mean, clearly you're seeing it here. Of people have listened to Hamilton, but not many people have seen Hamilton. Some exceptions, some that may be joining us on this podcast. We'll talk about it later. But it was absolutely a big deal, and clearly the masses have agreed. And given that we are still currently in a COVID-19 afflicted world, people are still starved for content. Ourselves, we are starved for content. And I think this is something that would have always been big. I think it was originally set for theaters,
October 2021.
Yeah, something like, yeah. So, for them to kind of shift things radically to have this ready for an Independence Day weekend was a huge move, and one that has evidently paid dividends for Disney, and I'm sure for Mr. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who's probably making bank off those subscriptions too, based on his potential cuts. So good on you, sir, we say. Okay. So I think that any other fun facts that have cropped up in the interim, I think we can maybe save some Hamilton talk for a little bit later, because I do believe we'll have a lot to say. We have very little news, which is, I'm sure people will think, oh, thank God, finally. Why do they always talk about news for an hour? I'm so sick of their shit. Sorry, sometimes we enjoy ourselves a little too much. Only 2 pieces of news this week, and the first one, I think it's a hot take, maybe. It's probably going to be more interesting for Andrew and myself than for Anna. And that is that there is a television adaptation of the video game series Fallout that is coming to Amazon. And it is coming courtesy of Westworld creators Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan. So I think there's a couple pieces to this that I think make me excited, and potentially you, Andrew, as well. But I think on one hand, cool, Fallout series, that's interesting, that has potential. And then here's these proven showrunners that are now, going to be hopefully up to the task. So anything that interests you, Andrew?
The people behind it. The property, don't get me wrong, the property's cool. But I feel like if you've seen any post-apocalyptic thing, you've seen Fallout. You know what I mean? So just having the showrunners behind it, I think is probably a very big deal. The imagery, the power suit in action could be pretty cool. And depending on what story they choose to draw from, whether it's like the early Fallout stuff or the newer stuff, with the with the Fallout shelters and stuff, depending on what they want to draw from. So there's a lot of material they can, though. Although a Dragonborn, I would take an Elder Scrolls Dragonborn shit before I'd take Fallout. I think that would be cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting because I feel like I've been out of tune with the Fallout series since probably 4. New Vegas would probably be the last one that I played. I never played New Vegas. I didn't play 4, and then 76 I'm told is an unmitigated disaster, and so I have not touched that at all.
How about you, Anna? Have you touched that? Have you touched the?
Yeah, sure. Let's bring her in, Fallout expert.
If you want to talk about Fallout Boy, I'm all for it. But I have nothing to add to this conversation.
Sugar's going down swinging. Is that Fallout Boy?
It was a good attempt at the lyrics, but you were incorrect on the lyrics.
Oh, damn it!
But
it
was close.
I get my words wrong.
It was a good effort.
Mimosas. That's what I'm drinking.
Andrew, I probably wouldn't have done a whole lot better myself. So you have some solidarity here, my friend.
Either way,
he made an attempt. I'm getting a little side eye, but I think he made an attempt. I think we should appreciate it. What else is there to say about Fallout? Probably not a whole lot. Right. Post-apocalyptic world, nuclear energy, wasteland stuff. The games are visually cool. The stories from at least 3 in New Vegas, which are the only 2 that I've really played with any sort of longevity, are good. I don't know how exactly they adapt to a TV format, if indeed they're planning on adapting an existing storyline or if they're just going to kind of go an original route. But I don't know. I don't know that Fallout as a video game series really, really necessarily is like an automatic that makes perfect sense to make a TV show out of. But I trust Lisa Joy and Jonathan Nolan,
I would agree with you. Yep.
I'll be curious to see how it turns out. Although I will wonder how it is going to affect their Westworld workload. So hopefully they can do both. But yeah, that's pretty much it on that front. So last piece of news. Oh my God, last piece of news. We have some movies that are basically set to start shooting again.
Ooh. Are they filming in Florida?
I'm sure Ron DeSantis would say, "Come on down," but no. As far as I know, they are not set to start filming in Florida. Although Georgia is actually the bigger hotspot for filming. Like Atlanta, particularly, Marvel does a lot of stuff there. So that's probably a legitimate question in terms of when that starts back up. And I don't know the answer to that question. Hopefully not super soon, but the real answer is probably pretty soon. Just I know I'm putting some bad energy out into the world, but I'm just telling truths. So in terms of the United Kingdom, what they're doing, Mission Impossible 7.
Ooh, they can film that because it's set in space.
No, that'll be in 8 or 9, or the Tom. Oh wait, no, that is a Tom Cruise movie. Oh good, yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe the secret Elon Musk Tom Cruise movie is in fact a Mission Impossible sequel. Maybe.
Derailed again. I'm sorry.
The Batman is another one that will be set to start production back up. And I think there's a few... Yeah, Jurassic World 3, Jurassic World Dominion, apparently as it's called. Fantastic Beasts 3. No, thank you. A Sony live-action musical adaptation of Cinderella, which... What? It's not like we haven't had a Cinderella movie fairly recently or anything like that, but I guess it's public domain, maybe. I don't know. And then Disney's Little Mermaid live action remake, adaptation, however you want to classify it. Those are all set to start back up in the UK. They're going to be filming with a quote-unquote bubble environment, which is to say that you're basically supposed to stay in proximity to where the set is, where production's happening. Don't venture out elsewhere. Otherwise, you greatly increase the risk of
exposure,
getting the virus, spreading the virus to others. So we'll see kind of how how things are going. These are considered exemptions. Basically, restrictions are still in place, across the country, but this is kind of just a way for, big money to get their things back on track, and hopefully it can be done in a safe manner. But, these are still films that are a good ways off. I think a lot of these had already been delayed, Mission Impossible among those. So, so that's something to hopefully look forward to next year, is that some of these movies can hopefully get back on track. I did see in the article that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is set to restart production in the Czech Republic, which I think it only has a couple weeks left of filming, and hopefully that'll still make it in time for a late 2020 release on Disney+, but we'll see. And then Avatar 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever the fuck they're still filming, is apparently set to resume filming in New Zealand as well. So yeah, that's kind of the latest. I don't think Tenet has been delayed as of recording, but give it time. It will inevitably be delayed again. But yeah, I think that does it for the news. So I think turning our attentions towards the main attraction, why we are gathered here on this evening, it's Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton.
He's going to do that every time. I'm just warning him. Music, lyrics, and book by Lin-Manuel Miranda. The adaptation, film adaptation on Disney Plus, was directed by Thomas Kail. The musical itself is loosely inspired by the 2004 biography Alexander Hamilton by Ron Chernow. And it stars a wonderful, wonderful cast consisting of Lin-Manuel Miranda himself, Philippa Sue, Leslie Odom Jr., Renee Elise Goldsberry, Christopher Jackson, David Diggs, Akiriate Onatawan, Anthony Ramos, Jasmine Cephas Jones, and Mindhunter's very own Jonathan Groff. Also Kristoff from Frozen. Is that what you're giving me a look for? Tells the real life story, sort of, in a way, of one of America's foremost founding fathers and the first Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Alexander Hamilton. Wow, the one time I thought he was going to do it.
Alexander Hamilton! I'm sorry, I was reading. I got distracted.
It was captured live on Broadway from the Richard Rodgers Theater with the original Broadway cast. Filmed in 2016, from what I understand. Over the course of 2 days, I'm told. So we'll start with non-spoilers, and yes, it's probably worth flagging that we all know what happened to Alexander Hamilton. It did happen quite some time ago, and it's well documented, and some of these events are indeed well documented, but the musical does offer its own unique take on things and its unique spin on things, so we will adhere to our traditional non-spoilers recommendation spoilers format, even though we are a little bit outside of the usual scope of our podcast. So, heading with non-spoilers, I think Andrew, it doesn't matter. You know what? We can kick to it's so this is what's interesting here is we have multiple viewpoints on Hamilton. Both, Andrew and I are coming to it basically completely fresh eyes. We talked about it last episode. Neither of us had seen it, obviously, and neither of us had listened to the soundtrack, which has been widely available for years. And a lot of people have chosen to consume, the music that way.
But I did not.
But you did not. But Anna has a different experience with that. So I think it'll be interesting to hear from a few different perspectives on this. So I was a little unsure of where to start, but I'm just going to go with my gut. I'm going to say, Andrew, you're a first-time viewer. Assume that, maybe our podcast listeners are in a similar boat of they don't know shit about Hamilton other than, hey, what's this guy about?
So, Hamilton.
Like, what's your take on it? Tell us.
I will tell you that it is an absolutely incredible experience. It drew tears from my face multiple times throughout the thing. Now, I had a bottle of wine, but I usually, a bottle of wine's, it doesn't leave me completely stupid. Like, I am still functional, you know what I mean? So, but it did bring me to tears a number of times. It was absolutely incredible. Sarah watched it with me. We were on the way back from Georgia. We were riding with my parents. So I'm pumped about watching Alexander Hamilton. Like, oh, what's that? I said, it's a musical about one of the founding fathers, the guy that's on your $10 bill. I think he's on $10 bill, right?
Yep, $10 bill.
and important dude. And I got a lot of flack in the car from absolutely everybody. And because it's a musical. Musical's one of those things. It's almost like watching a cartoon. You know, I feel like it's just a different thing. You know, some people aren't into it. Sarah was one of which that's not into musicals. But she did watch it with me, and she thoroughly enjoyed it. She watched the whole thing. She ended up probably a quarter of the way through, put down her phone, and she was actually engaging with it. And I asked her after it was over if she could recommend it, and she said she could recommend it, which I think is huge. You're at that rate, you're traversing the genre. You know, just from the talent, from the music, from the acting. Everything about this production is just completely ridiculous. To be fair, I haven't seen a musical in quite some time. I have pretty limited exposure. I watched Rent when it came out forever ago.
You're telling me you didn't watch Cats when it came out?
No, I definitely did not watch Cats. Definitely did not. I don't even think I saw... what's the... Bourgeois? You know which one I'm talking about? That one? Mona Lisa Tonight. That one.
What?
Colton, I think, knows what I'm talking about. Ukubuku Seishu Suswa.
Please stop. My soul is dying right now. That you can't even think of the name of my favorite film. This is crushing me.
What is it? What's it?
I'm so disappointed in you.
I want to say it's Moulin Rouge. Okay, it is Moulin Rouge.
And the lyrics are Voulez-vous coucher avec moi?
Oh, okay. Well, I butchered that. I apologize. I butchered it multiple times. I didn't want to get it confused with the one where the girls dance on the bar. Which one's one? Is that Coyote Ugly?
Yes.
I didn't want to get the two mixed up. I thought that was a much bigger disservice. Either way, I haven't seen that one, but I did see Rent and I did see Phantom of the Opera.
Both excellent choices, but you should see Moulin Rouge.
I should see Moulin Rouge, yes. But this production, I've seen a couple of I've seen I think one live thing. I can't remember what I saw. That was a long time ago. But this production is incredible. The acting, I mean, you obviously have a much different experience because you saw it live. But being someone that hasn't seen it live, I would imagine that it's an elevated experience because you can see depending on how good your seats are, you can see their faces, you can see the acting, you know, it's I don't know. I feel like it's elevated because you're right there on top of the performance.
Well, and I think the way they chose to film it too.
That's true.
They didn't just do I don't know if either of you have watched filmed productions before.
Fixed camera,
right.
Yeah.
Like the PBS type shit that just looks boring as hell. And I feel like that's how I saw Oklahoma with Hugh Jackman. Well, that one's not as bad, but it's still pretty much like that. The Hugh Jackman Oklahoma. And then, Into the Woods, I saw Bernadette Peters, that version. And it's just a very different experience. I feel like the most recent film production I watched was Coriolanus, the Donmar Warehouse, Tom Hiddleston production. It was free for a week on YouTube at the beginning of June, and I had seen it in theaters twice before that, actually. And I feel like that one has the kind of same vibe where they give you different camera angles. They actually zoom in more. This Hamilton had 6 different cameras, including this huge one that they had to bring in on a crane, basically. And one that was from the back, which I thought was just a really cool and really different view, that sometimes you had a view from the performer's perspective, basically from the back of the stage.
Yeah. Well, it made a huge difference on the experience. It changed it in a way, you know? But yeah, because the acting in this is, it's incredible. All the actors and actresses, they are incredibly talented. They're just, you watch it, and to be honest, I was pretty slack-jawed the entire time I was watching it. Made me laugh wholeheartedly in a lot of areas, made me cry in a couple of areas, and educated me throughout the thing. Now, to be fair, I've read a little bit about some of the main players in this thing, but I'm going to say it educated me because largely I didn't know a lot about Hamilton. And so leaving it, I feel completely floored. I feel better watching it. I feel, and especially at a time right now where American politics, what they are, kind of made me feel good to be an American watching it. You know, it felt, I don't know, I thought it was enriching. I thought it was an enriching thing. The stories of where we come from and our nations, you know, and all that good stuff. I don't know. Made me feel patriotic, especially on this weekend, you know, so felt good about it.
Yeah. I think it made me feel patriotic in the sense that, you know, I can't remember the exact quote, but as James Baldwin said, part of loving your country is having the right to critique it endlessly and want it to be the best it can be. And I think this kind of shows us, you know, not only tells us what we didn't know about Hamilton, but also like all the things that were like all the ways that made him a flawed person. Mm-hmm. And I think all the different ways that the founding fathers were flawed. I would say that the Hamilton this musical is about is Eliza, because she's the hero of the story. That's here. True. Yeah. Not Alexander. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot it kind of glosses over, but I think it still focuses on some of the bad parts of, you know, the founding of the nation and also the individuals who are a part of it. But yeah.
Colton, what do you think about Alexander Hamilton?
So as a fellow first-timer with Hamilton, I will say before I really dive in too deep, I didn't know what to expect walking in the sense of, okay, you know, I said as much to you on the last episode that Anna and others had recommended to me, listen to the music, and then go in because you're going to miss certain things. Or maybe you're going to miss certain things. And so I was wondering if it was going to feel overwhelming, if I was going to feel kind of lost, and if it just wasn't going to click for me. And I was really hoping that I would avoid that disappointment because I know how well loved this is and how people have raved about this for years. And I don't think I could handle the crushing blow of having to tell Anna that I didn't like it. Which is why I'm very glad to say that I fucking loved it. It was awesome. And I felt, you know, it's not that I would, it's not that I wouldn't trade my experience. You know, I think I would have been happy to have listened to the soundtrack thousands of times, maybe not thousands, hundreds of times, we'll say, you know, and then to either experience it, you know, on stage in person or to watch, you know, to visually see it this way for the first time. I think that still would have been an absolutely rewarding experience. But there was also something kind of nice about just kind of taking it in all at once and in a way that I don't think you would have been able to get in any other medium, as you guys have now talked about. And just the way it was filmed, it feels much more interactive and up close, and, you know, and more personal in a way that you really don't get with a lot of stage productions, unless you're sitting very close, which means that you got money, and I don't got money. So to be able to see it in this kind of intimate way was really, really cool, and to kind of have the flood of music, it was overwhelming in the sense that, like, you know, Anna's asked me, like, well, what's your favorites from it? And I'm like, oh, fuck, it's all so good. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say. And then I think maybe we'll talk about that maybe in a little bit of favorite tracks. I think that'll be a good thing to touch on at some point. But, you know, it's all really fucking good.
Yeah,
there's no wrong answer. I mean, maybe there's some gradations you could argue about, but it's there. I didn't feel uninterested at any point. I felt sucked in very quickly. I mean, just even from the beginning.
First track, man. First track
gets you, and then it just, you know, it really just doesn't let up, and I found myself not really knowing like where they were going to go in terms of the timeline and how far it would go, and you know, I kind of expected how it might end just based on my knowledge of history, but there was a lot in there, same way as you, Andrew, where I probably learned a few things that I didn't know. And it's kind of, you know, I've been, you know, looking up these people basically since watching it. And it's just interesting to kind of see like, oh yeah, no, it's, you know, obviously it skirts around things here and there. George Washington makes it out pretty, looking a lot better than he is as we can, you know, can actually say he was as a person. But for the most part, it does again show those flaws, particularly of Alexander Hamilton. But it does it in a way that is just captivating and mesmerizing. And the cast, as you mentioned, is just wonderful. As just an experience, I'm sure we'll have many more things to say, so I don't want to just throw everything out on the record all at once. But yeah, just really as like a first time watcher, I was blown away. Really, really entertained. Anna can attest to the fact that I had some uproarious response to at least one particular character, which I think Andrew was singing one of his songs before we started recording.
First time that motherfucker came on stage. We'll talk about it in spoilers. Yes, I thoroughly. Yes, I left my ass off. I laughed it off real hard. Yeah. It was,
but it got me emotionally, and it didn't quite pull me to tears. Which I should say that I was very hungover on Saturday, we watched it later that evening. I had mostly recovered by that point, but I was staying away from the alcohol as much as possible. I did have a couple beers, to be fair, but I guess I wasn't as emotionally pliable as I could have been in some different circumstances, but. Or perhaps as some people that I watched it with were, but it still hit me. It still definitely hit me, and it really resonated, and it was just such a joyous thing that I want to watch it again. So yes, now we kick it over to Anna, who has a very, very different experience to tell about than both Andrew and myself.
Let's hear it. I'm excited.
Well, so first of all, I'll give a little background. So I grew up 3 hours from New York City. So I have seen shows literally on Broadway. I saw Wicked with, I think, the third cast. I saw Little Mermaid, the original cast. I saw How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying with the original revival cast, aka Daniel Radcliffe, and that's when I met him. Greatest day of my life. And I also saw a non-musical, but I saw Romeo and Juliet with Orlando Bloom.
I thought that was Leonardo DiCaprio, Cameron Diaz, or something.
No, that's the movie, and it's Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio. Another Baz Luhrmann film, who did Moulin Rouge.
Oh,
so
I got it wrong again. I'm doing that man a lot of
which I
disservice.
also love. But so I feel like I've had a lot of experience seeing live theater. I worked on musicals in high school, and we have a theater in Schenectady that, like, all of the national touring companies come to. So I've also seen Wicked there. I've seen Spamalot there. I've seen Mamma Mia there. I've seen...
Damn. You're just straight up...
something else more recently I've seen. But I also saw Hamilton there. So I didn't see Hamilton on Broadway. And I think what I saw I think I saw the second national tour, because I just saw it. Was that literally just last year? Yeah, I think last August is when I saw it. I don't know. Time doesn't matter. Nothing makes sense anymore. So I had heard about it in, I want to say 2015, like the fall of that year. I had a friend who was in school for theater, and so she was always just very much like had her finger on the pulse of this kind of thing, and had said, you got to listen to it, it's so good. And I was like, oh well, like I want to see it, so I'm not going to listen to it first, I want to see it first. And I put it off, and then it got popular, and then it got expensive, and I knew I wasn't going to see it. So I ended up in the summer of 2016, I moved from Vermont to Boston. And I had wanted to listen to the soundtrack when I wouldn't be interrupted. And at first I thought I was just going to listen to the first half and save the second half for like when I saw it.
Couldn't stop.
And I couldn't stop. Yeah. Who could? Who could listen to the first half and not listen to the second half? It's not going to happen. So I listened to the soundtrack as I drove from Vermont to Boston. And I remember it vividly. And I was alone in the car, and I was driving my grandpa's old minivan. So I literally had to buy it on iTunes and burn it to a CD to listen to it. And then just kept listening to it and like, listened to it over and over again, knew all the words, like listened to the mixtape when it came out, which is like a collection of covers that Lin-Manuel himself like curated. and and then saw it in person, and I loved it. I mean, I don't think it's my favorite musical, because that's definitely still Wicked. I fucking loved Wicked.
Never saw Wicked.
Really love Rent, and also I saw Moulin Rouge. I forgot I saw the Moulin Rouge original Broadway cast when they did previews in Boston 2 years ago. I'd kind of forgotten about that. That was like 2 years ago, like tomorrow, I think. But I had a lot of experience with like the original cast recording of this, and so I wasn't really sure. I knew I was excited to see like those actual actors, like hearing them sing
perform
these songs for so long. I was excited to see them perform it. I don't think I was prepared though, because I mean it really just like Jonathan Groff, who's a king, he gives quite a delivery.
Fucking, and I think ridiculous delivery.
Right. So much spit comes out of that man's mouth. Horrifying. But also just like his facial expressions. I had never experienced that. I thought the songs were funny and like thought he did a good job. And then seeing his face just adds a totally different dimension to it.
Yes, it does.
And so I think I knew I was going to love it. I knew I was excited. I had started a while ago reading Cherno's book, and I did not finish it because it's really, really long. But I might go back to it now. So I knew I was going to be excited, but then I think I just got I got very emotional. We're still in non-spoilers, I guess, but the first time I listened to the song Burn, I remember exactly where I was. I was in New Hampshire on this horrible, horrible, 5-lane highway that I hate. And I was sobbing while driving this monstrosity of a minivan that I'd only driven twice before. And I was just sobbing in the car, trying to hold it together and not crash, as the back of the van was filled with all of my belongings. It was very intense. And so I don't think I probably should have expected the reaction. But so when I watched, we had to pause it actually after Burn so that I could finish sobbing again. So I feel you on the multiple places of tears, but we can talk more about the points of our tears in spoilers, because there were multiple.
That song,
places.
That song drew quite a few tears. That song made me that song made me kind of do one of those, when you're kind of crying a little bit and you think you're just crying, you can hold it together, and I'm just gonna have the single tear, but then it's you're holding your breath, and then you got to breathe, but you don't want to breathe too much. You go like that. That's what that song did to me. It made me fucking whimper. So I was a mess. Sarah gave me a hard time after the end of the movie. She's like, because I put on The Patriot. I was in revolution mode, so I put on The Patriot with Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson, and anyways, I put on. Oh boy! I put on The Patriot, and she goes, "Oh, you're gonna cry 18 times in this one too?" I was like, "No, I probably won't."
Probably just turn it off and burn it, because racist, sexist, xenophobic, anti-Semite Mel Gibson.
Yeah, he's definitely said some things.
He's a real piece of shit.
Yeah, no, it's worth saying. Mel Gibson is. I will put it out on the air. Mel Gibson is a real piece of shit. I do enjoy The Patriot, and I do enjoy Braveheart, though. Is that bad? And even what's that one? No, I don't enjoy those. There's a series. I don't enjoy those now that I remember. It's mostly just Braveheart, and it's mostly just The Patriot. But The Patriot's got Homeboy in it, Heath Ledger. He's good in it. Mm-hmm. Either way, I digress.
So Anna, I wanted to ask you specifically relating to your experiences in terms of Hamilton. You talked about your reaction to seeing the visualizations of the cast members as you heard them on the soundtrack. How does that compare to the actual stage experience of seeing it with not, different performers, but, same music and same, I assume same everything, but, what's that experience like, I guess, first of all, and then how does that kind of compare to this Disney Plus experience?
Yeah, I think when I first saw it last year, it was so I had seen certain parts filmed because PBS did like a 1-hour documentary special that I watched a few years ago, and they have a clip of like the final number, and I didn't realize like the placement of certain characters on the stage for that, and so that was kind of cool to see that. And so then there's a whole song that's in the production that's not on the original, that's not on the soundtrack. They don't put on that, and Broadway shows always do that. There's always one song that they don't put on the soundtrack. Because,
why is that?
You know, I assume it's like a weird, like not a weird, but a you have to go see the show to get the full picture.
I got you. Okay.
Type of thing. And I think there's some songs that really can't do that. Like Les Mis, it's literally everything is sung. Like there is no speaking. But I Wicked, it's the Wicked Witch of the East song. It's
what is it in Hamilton?
I can't remember. So in Hamilton, it's the letter from John Lauren's father, which I think is right before Nonstop. We can get into it in spoilers because there's definitely spoilers in that letter. But I think seeing it on stage the first time, it was like there was a lot of like the dancing that I didn't get to see, and so much of the choreography is cool. Like in Satisfied, when they do the whole rewind and it goes back, and then watching it's the same choreography just with this song. And some of it I kind of assumed was like that, but it was very cool to see it. And so for this, I think there's a few things. I think there are a few cast members who truly just can't be replaced. I think Renee Elise Goldsberry and Philippa Sue in particular are just so fucking incredible.
Are those the Schuyler sisters?
Yes.
Okay.
And they're amazing. And so like
Angelica Schuyler. I'm sorry, don't mean to cut you off.
That's Renee Elise Goldsberry. Yeah. So the ones I saw when I saw it in person, like they were great. They were really good. But they weren't those two. Like, it's just, you can't even compare it. It was actually very interesting because Lin-Manuel is a genius and he's very talented. He doesn't have the greatest voice. Like, his voice really isn't that great. I think he can deliver those lines like no one else can, and he can obviously rap and he can hit the notes of the songs, but he doesn't have like the most beautiful voice. So I think that was kind of a nice thing that I got to see with the cast I saw, because our Hamilton did have a good voice. And actually, I think we saw the understudy the day we were there, and he was great. He was amazing. So I think in some ways I was able to kind of notice more because it was my second time seeing it. But also some of that wonder had probably kind of worn off because I knew what was like, I know what this is going to look like. I know what's going to happen here in terms of movement on the stage. But I think just seeing the original cast, because that's really like, I mean, Colton has heard me singing every lyric to this show quite a bit over the last few days, and probably before that, and you didn't even know it. But I spent so much time listening to the cast recording and getting to know those voices and the delivery and all of that. And it's actually kind of a weird thing. I think Leslie Odom Jr. is better on the cast recording than he is in this film of it. So I highly recommend listening to, and he's Aaron Burr. So I would highly recommend listening to. I knew you were gonna do it. I knew you were gonna do it, and I was trying to just press through it. Oh man. Anyway, listen to his recordings because they're better in that. But yeah, I thought it was incredible. I was not disappointed.
Yeah. See, I can't pass I can't even Lin-Manuel. I think I said Manuel in the beginning. Manuel. The slight articulations in his voice and stuff, the way he does little things in the delivery, I think is pretty much the way to say it, is, well, he wrote it, so he knows how he wants to deliver it. Is right. Just fucking I can't say, and it's a first impression kind of thing, right? So I can't say too much about it because, like I said, it's my first impression. But I can't fault not one performer in any way. I mean,
they're all incredible.
Yeah, absolutely freaking incredible.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And if I could chime in, you could lay praise on basically every single cast member here, but I thought Daveed Diggs was fantastic.
Yes,
dual role as Lafayette and Jefferson, and a lot of dual roles in this, and I think that's another thing that's probably worth bringing up is, and I did have some slight inclination that there was going to be dual roles in this, but it's pretty clear like where the split I mean, it's an Act 1 versus Act 2 character type
That's
thing.
right.
And I think the music itself and the way that it's presented makes it pretty clear that like this is a different person. It's the same actor, you get it type thing. But yeah, Daveed Diggs, I mean,
crushed it. Yes.
I mean, I guess maybe this is just something for me, and I think Andrew and I were probably going to be on this, but like, you know, when we go back and listen to the music, like I'm always going to picture now, and maybe you do have it since you've seen the stage musical, but like I'm always going to picture like these performers, like they're the way they emote, the way that, you know, like Daveed Diggs is just owning that fucking stage, like in those roles, like he is incredible. And I'm sure that like the talent came across in like just listening to it, but I think for me just having those two things, and I'm a visual person, so
that's it.
It's understandable that like this is just how I would experience it, and prefer to experience it. But like just these things are going to be inseparable for me.
Ridiculous.
And same way for Lin-Manuel Miranda, and we talked about this. You know, I agree. He's not the most talented. He's arguably the least talented of the cast in terms of just pure vocal abilities. But he still owns that role, and obviously he originates the role, and you know, is a huge. He is the reason this thing is what it is. But everyone here is just so ridiculously good.
I with the dual roles, I think, like Daveed has just such a like distinct voice. It was always so like because I listened, I didn't know who played who. I didn't know about the dual roles. It was obvious that like Daveed Diggs was because his voice is so distinct, even though he had the French accent in the first half.
The French accent was
in the second
amazing.
half. And I think the guy who played Hercules Mulligan and Madison, he changes his voice too. I think Anthony Ramos doesn't as much, but that's for a reason that we'll talk about in spoilers, that he doesn't as much. But I think the one that really impressed me on the stage, that really got me watching it, was Jasmine Cephas-Jones, because when I listened, I did not know it was the same woman playing Maria Reynolds and Peggy. I didn't know because her voice sounds so different. And then being able to watch her and having, you know, they change her hair and they change the color of her dress and all of that. But I was so impressed with her in the second half in particular, because I just thought, you know, the first times I listened to it, I didn't have any kind of, I don't know. I think I didn't like her character. I think I didn't, you know, I kind of fell into that old sexist trap of blaming her for what happened. And, you know, being able to see her perform, it put a totally different spin on it for me, because I just thought she was incredible. And her voice, just, oh my God, her singing voice in Say No to This is just beautiful and incredible. And that song is great.
One thing we haven't touched on, and I think it's definitely worth noting, is with the exception of the king, which I think it's a little bit of a I don't know, it's just nuanced in itself. With the exception of the king, the oppressor, all the cast members in this production are non-white people.
I think there's actually one other white person.
Is there? Oh, it's the guy reading the scroll.
The most. He's both the farmer refuted, and he also plays Charles Lee. So it's just like the white dudes play the most annoying people in the show. It's perfect. It is
perfect. And yeah.
I love thinking about George Washington and Thomas Jefferson just rolling over in their graves, thinking, seeing this amazing smash Broadway hit where they're being played by men of color. So it brings me deep satisfaction.
One thing too, another thing, I don't want to go at, I looked up John Lawrence. They talk about how he wanted to have an army or I'm pretty sure if it's 3,000 people,
the all black regiment.
Yeah, the all black regiment. And that was something that he was passionate about. And I think that spurred Alexander into certain directions, I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way it's kind of seemed. I got to get to work. I've got to fix this and that.
Yeah. In real life.
Let's talk about
Hamilton. He detested slavery. He thought it was, evil and bad, but he wasn't actually like a really active abolitionist.
He didn't do a lot to stop it. Okay.
In fact, he participated in slave trade for his father-in-law.
Ooh, Schuyler.
Yeah, so Hamilton's not. Yeah, so Hamilton was not an abolitionist. He was certainly influenced by Lawrence, and it probably is true that he thought that Madison and Jefferson were, hypocrites, and he, thought that was, detestable that they owned slaves. And I think there is a line in the musical that I think alludes to Washington also owning slaves, where Hamilton's talking about, basically being like, fuck these guys from Virginia. And Washington says, young man, I'm from Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
And it feels like kind of a reminder, like, some of these things that we're, getting on them for, Washington did too, because I think this show holds up Washington a little too much. We had talked about how, it's not talked about here, but, we were, as kids, told about Washington's wooden teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah,
no,
sure.
It was slaves' teeth made up his dentures. Yeah,
it
wasn't one.
Really?
They weren't one. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I
think there's just kind of so much that we kind of gloss over. And so I appreciate that this musical doesn't, sweep it all under the rug. It directly calls out the evils and hypocrisy of enslaving people, and especially with Jefferson, of course. But, I think there's too many people who want this musical to teach everything about American history. And, obviously there's a whole kind of side too of this time period of colonialism with Hamilton technically being an immigrant from the Caribbean. And so we get a lot of like pro-immigrant, and especially with Lin-Manuel being an immigrant from the Caribbean. But, no one really talks about the fact that colonizing this country and like creating the United States also directly led to the genocide of Native American people.
Yeah.
So I think there's just, so they don't even touch on that. And I don't think I need them to. I don't expect anyone to learn everything they can about American history from this musical. I don't think that's what you need from this musical. I think that you can like something that's not perfect or love something that's not perfect. So I think some of the critiques of the things they leave out are too much. They go too far. I think, however, I find the critique of the way that Washington is put on a pedestal as I think that's a really valid critique, because I think he's just it's a little too hero worship for me in this show.
It's fair. You know what I did find? You can I don't know, you can critique me, how you will. I found the ideal of a president uplifting in this movie. What it is to be a president. You know what I mean? You can critique me. It's okay. I feel that.
So Hamilton wanted like president for life.
He wanted to proceed. They didn't touch on that shit.
Well, they kind of do, because he tries to get Washington to stay in office. And Washington
because
says
at that
he's
time there
stepping
were
down.
no term limits. Okay.
Right. And no, well, there were terms, but you had to run for re-election. You could run for re-election as So yes. So in this case, he it's wild to think about, like, if he probably would have beat Jefferson. And I think, he makes a point where he says, it outlives me when I'm gone, about the country. Like, if he steps down and without term limits, he probably could have stayed in office for just
however long until he died, right?
His whole right, exactly, his whole life. And he didn't want to do that. But I think it is wild too, the things that this kind of holds up Washington, but then it's like Washington also said don't get involved in foreign wars. Washington also said a two-party system is really bad. So there's all these things that I think there are people who hold up Washington. And
at the end of the day, all I was alluding to was the fact that we need somebody to stand behind. We need somebody to right. we need
an actual leader.
Yeah,
that people admired and would follow through anything.
Correct.
Yeah, and that was who Washington was for his time. It made you kind of miss it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's there's all sorts of pockets and stuff, and there's real bad things. No matter, I mean, especially when you're diving into American history, it gets really fucking nasty. But at the end of the day, when we were not at the end of the day, I don't want to dismiss it because it's not. You shouldn't dismiss it, but that's what I felt good about. Today we look at the president as X, Y, and Z. We look at who we have in office. Could you imagine him fucking leading an army anywhere, doing anything? No, you can't.
Bone spurs.
Fuck no.
Spurs.
And it's sad, right? But imagine having a president that you could.
Right. And
that's incredible. That we had that at one point.
Yeah.
And I think that's cool.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's all I had to say about that. But
yeah.
So we've been at it non-spoilers for a little while here. I think we've hit on a lot of things about the musical itself.
Did we talk about the stage rotating?
I don't know if we've specifically mentioned that, but that was definitely very excellent and very cool.
Did your stage rotate, Anna, when you saw it?
Yeah. We had it was the exact same stage setup and everything like that.
Did they bring in the stage? Is that part of the production?
Yeah, it is. So I actually learned a lot about this kind of stage production when I was actually in middle school, but my sister was working on the high school play, and our high school did Beauty and the Beast. Mm-hmm. And that thing, it's a literal castle that rotates.
Wow.
And it's like wild, because then it turns so that you can see it from the outside when the mob is happening and all of that. And at the time it was like, wait, they just sell these? Because we had to rent it.
You had to rent
this so much fucking money. You had to rent the castle.
So the existing stage is an elevated platform, and then the castle rotates is what you're saying they had to rent?
Right. So it was on, I guess, wheels. So in the same way for this, they bring in that, it's basically a thicker stage that they put on top of the other one.
Gotcha. It's like a veneer with a motorized platform.
Right. And so, and I had those for dance, not rotating, obviously, but these thicker platforms that, it was a special black material. I forgot what it was called, but it was basically because we did so much tumbling on the ground, it had to absorb shocks really easily.
Right.
And so they bring it in and place it before all of this. So
Gotcha.
Every production of Hamilton, whether it's Chicago, London, New York, or the touring company, they have that stage.
And there's obviously going to be, depending on if you're Beauty and the Beast, you might have a wider wheel for the thing to rotate on, versus in Hamilton you're talking about people rotating on it, that sort of stuff. So that's cool. I didn't know that. That's neat. Okay.
Yeah. And not every musical has something as intense as that in terms of that, but a lot of that stage design is pretty especially
standard
for touring companies. It's pretty standardized. Yeah.
Cool. That's fun fact.
Yeah, really cool. And I'm glad you brought that up, because that was something that definitely stuck out to me just watching it, was just the intricacy of the stage itself, the way it was constructed, and how obviously the performers were able to
the fucking lighting. Can we talk about the lighting? I know we keep staying in the fucking non-spoiler section. One song in particular, there was a divide between two characters, and it made it feel like they were in two separate rooms. And they were harmonizing with each other, and they were making a song together, but it felt like two distinctive different rooms, strictly on the use of of lighting.
Are you talking about Dear Theodosia when they're both in the chairs?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, that was cool. That was really it was very. An awesome use of lighting. And there's the use of lighting throughout the production is definitely worth noting. There's a lot of intricacies,
especially the foot stamp and the I'm feeling blue.
Yes, yeah, it was awesome with our King George. King George, what a douche. Anyways, we can move on to whatever section you want to move to.
Yeah, well, I think we'll have a lot more to say in recommendation and a lot more to say in spoilers if there's been, and if I'm reading the room correctly anyway. So let's go ahead and move on to recommendation. So yeah, in terms of recommendation, we're going to employ our same 5-tiered scale. Of course, I think we're going to have a unanimous vote on this. So.
Do musicals, because they're available live, do we adopt a new ranking system?
Well, I don't have one on my brain right now, so I'm going to say no. I'm just going to say we're going to use our same one. So we got very yes at the tippity top, followed by yes, totally fine. It's the middle ground, fine, and then the absolute worst of the worst being shit house. I believe it's going to be a unanimous vote here for very yes, and if anyone feels differently, please chime in now. Okay, I hear nothing, which means that, yes, we all feel the same way of this being a very yes recommendation, and it's on Disney+, $6.99 a month. Send us our paychecks, Disney, if you would, please. That would be excellent. No, but seriously, I mean, even no money considerations involved. This is absolutely worth your time, and it is some time that you have to invest into it. I guess we haven't talked about that, but it's a stage production. It's 2 hours and 40 minutes roughly. I don't know if it's maybe give or take a couple minutes. With
it doesn't play long at all, though. It seems very. I mean, it
flows. It flows. It really, really does. Yeah, it's a wonderful experience, and it just sucks you in from basically minute one. I think, and there's a lot to really enjoy about it. It's top notch, really, in all aspects. I hesitate to think about anything that left me feeling like, oh, that could have been better, or that could have been improved. Like, no. The cast, top to bottom, incredible. The performances from those cast members, just absolutely insane, and something that just really, really adapts so well to the filmed format here. The music is top notch. It's so fucking good. It's creative. It's this amazing, blend of genres that's just done so well, and it is easy to follow. I mean, I really don't think it's so convoluted that you feel lost in the dust after a song or two. Like, it really. No. It gets you going. It's emotional. It sinks its hooks into you, and once you're in, you're just in. You're in till the end, and it's going to hit you in some places, I think, and I think we can all attest to that to varying degrees, I think, overall. But it's going to hit you in some places, and it's just a real. It's something that absolutely just delivered on all expectations. Maybe surpassed them. I don't know. But I highly, 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 highly recommend anyone watch Hamilton. I just adored it. I loved it, and to close the loop on what I said earlier, I'm very glad that I can turn to Anna and say, "Holy shit, that was awesome." So yes, whoever wants to pick it up from here can offer their recommendation or expansion on the very yes recommendation. I'll say.
I say very yes. I say. I understand why a ticket costs anywhere from $300 to $1,100-$1,200 or whatever. I fully understand it. I imagine tickets have gone for much more than that, but just on my quick googs on what tickets would cost, that's roughly where they're at. I would pay it to see it live. I would pay. No, I'm not going to pay $1,200, but I'd probably pay $300 or $400 to sit in some decent seats and watch it. I would pay to see it. And I like a lot of bands, for concerts and such. You'd never hear me say I'd pay $300 or $400 to see a band live. Never. I would pay to see this production. I would pay more than what I would pay to see a normal concert. I think it offers so much. Might gloss over historical intricacies and such, but I think I don't know. It's just a really good production. And then, like I say,
that happens to also teach you some stuff too.
Right, exactly.
Like that's like a bonus.
Yeah, exactly. It's enriching in many ways. I think that there's a lot of thought. There's a lot of talent. There's a lot of I don't know, man. People poured their heart and soul into making this thing, and it's incredible. I can't think of anything else other than say it's just incredible. Super good. To think that one person wrote all the stuff. One person put it all together, and then all these people were able to identify with the characters that they're playing, and then make those characters real and bring them to life is just absolutely incredible. It's one of the best things I've watched in a very long time. It thoroughly blew me away. I haven't watched anything on TV or in a movie that blew me away to this level in a significant amount of time. I mean, it's one of my. I mean, right now, I mean, it's obviously fresh, so but I have to say it's one of the most favorite things I've watched in a very long time.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it. I feel like we saw a lot of stuff on Twitter this weekend that was like, just the classic, like people being like, oh, this thing that is popular and people love, I don't like it, I don't want it, and it's just dumb, because I think the reason this was so popular, the reason it became this phenomenon with these ticket sales and with these crazy prices for tickets is because it is so fucking amazing.
What don't you like about
for
it?
A reason.
That's worth asking. What?
Right. Like what? I don't
like if you don't like the music because you don't like hip hop or something, you can't follow it fast
which is
enough
also just stupid.
Whatever.
Frankly, because
if
I
that's
think
the way you feel, but to critically critique something because you don't like it is wrong.
Right.
Like that's
I think that there are people who don't really like musicals generally who might
true.
find like this doesn't do it for them. But I think just looking at it just as a story, and like you said, the acting and the directing, especially with this production, like that. I think that all is, like you said, you can't. It
really transcends the genre. Like
yes,
I said,
absolutely.
Sarah came in not liking musicals. I won't be able to get into it, and she wasn't into it for the first 15 minutes, but she soon got on board. I mean, it set hooks. So
yeah, and I have my opinions, which I think we talked about anyway. Where I hate when people say they don't like something in a genre, because I'm just like, how could you possibly know that? To say like, I don't like fantasy, or I don't like sci-fi, or I'm like, how could you say that? Because everything is different within those genres. That's like saying I don't like fiction. You can't say that, because every fiction book has like a different topic, has a different writing style, has a different set of characters, and that's the same within any other genre too. Mm-hmm. So like, I think that you can say that you don't like, the vibe maybe, but I think that's also where we get tripped up into like separating things into genres anyway, because then people write off all musicals and then maybe they don't, experience this. And I think my dad was someone who really did not think he was going to like Hamilton.
Because of the musical thing, or?
He loves musicals. No, he loves musicals. His favorite musical is Kinky Boots. He loved Wicked. He loved Rent. He loves musicals. That it's not that at all, but he doesn't like rap and hip hop. And I think part of that, to be honest, is just like old white man doesn't think he'll like this music that's not for him. And I think he's probably wrong about that anyway. But he had read the book. He had read the Ron Chernow book. So ages ago. Because my grandma had read it and liked it and sent it to him, her son-in-law, thinking, you'll like this. And now I have that copy. But, he was kind of hesitant to listen to it. And he was like, I don't think I'm going to like it. I don't think I'm going to like it. And then when it came to the theater near us, he was willing to go and see it. And then he loved it. And he thought it was fantastic. And he was literally tweeting about it this weekend because he was excited about it. So I don't think he's watched it yet. But I think he will again after seeing it, because he saw it with me last summer. But yeah, I think it does. It transcends, the genres within it even, because I think it has, kind of more traditional musical sounding songs, but then it has songs that are very poppy and songs that are pure hip hop and like amazing raps, usually by Lin or by David. But
and it's like anything else, you know, you have things that are set within genres, but the talent and the message that something is trying to push forward, it will push through whatever medium it's set in. Right? Like people that don't like video games can say that they really like X, Y, and Z. You know, I mean,
I've always been I don't like video games except Mario Kart. And then it's like, oh, but I also like Sims. And I'm like, oh, but I also like Animal Crossing and ARMS. And, you know, and it's just, you got to find the ones you like.
That's it. There's things that, I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those things. But
people should give it a shot. Absolutely. 100%.
Yes. Very yes. And like I said, if you can, I would say it's probably worth going and seeing a live performance of it, because that's another thing too. You listen to the the audio quality, like the people singing this thing live. Excuse me, I had a hiccup. People were singing this fucking thing live, man. And it was absolutely outstanding. They were singing and running and dancing and doing this and acting and all of this shit live. And it was just impeccable. I mean, it was just so good. Blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. I can't talk about it. I went to work today talking about it. The car let. Oh, have you seen Hamilton? Oh, no, I haven't seen Hamilton. Well, you know, it's a musical and you should watch it. Oh, you want me to watch a musical? Yes, it's fucking outstanding. That's exactly what I said.
So, yeah, I have one kind of additional thought inspired by what you guys have talked about. You know, I would also see this live if I was given an opportunity, and, you know, there's a vaccine and, you know, the world's normal and shit. You know, we're assuming a lot of things in this particular scenario. But I think it's also, yes, I think that's all absolutely true. I do think that, like, honestly, it's just cool still that this is offered as a way to see it for those people that'll never have the money to go to a live performance. You know, maybe we can throw a few $100 down, and that's a lot for us to spend on something like this. But,
to be fair,
you know,
yes. I mean,
but there's people that will still never be able to make that, and you know, I don't know if they're necessarily, you know, going to have access to Disney Plus, but certainly a $6.99 price point to get this kind of, you know, authentically captured 2016 original Broadway cast performance. Like,
it'll never happen. It's kind of,
you don't like, this kind of thing doesn't really happen very often. And you know, this again was originally supposed to be a theatrical release, and then to have this kind of basically go direct to consumer with the streaming service, that's a pretty low cost point. You know, like, there's a lot of things that just kind of go into this, and like, it's just a really kind of cool thing, you know, just again, taking a step back and looking at it, like, it's cool that they have decided to make this thing in the first place, and then to just make it available. And I think it was Lin-Manuel Miranda's decision to basically say, fuck it, let's put it on Disney Plus instead of, you know, with everything going on, like, let's do it. And I just think it's really cool to have that sort of accessibility for something that has for too long, you know, not really been accessible. So
agreed. And almost every Broadway musical has a recording. Like, it might not be quite to this level because Tommy Kail is a very talented director and they, you know, put in all the effort, but every show has a recording of it. There's basically just, they're locked away and they bring them out every once in a while. And like, you know, National Theatre Live, which is just most, I think all London plays, but, you know, they made those accessible during this, during coronavirus and during quarantine, because they were like, let's give somebody, you know, people stuff to watch at home. Like, they can't go to the theater. Let's give them these plays. And like, I think, it might be done now, but I know that Gwendolyn Christie's, Midsummer's Night's Dream was like the most recent one available. And it's really great. And that's wonderful that they did that. But theater should be more accessible all the time. Like, there is just, it's really frustrating that there's this like privilege associated with getting to go to the theater. And like, I feel so lucky that I've gotten to see things on Broadway. And that was mostly because of my proximity, but also like Wicked and Little Mermaid, I saw those as field trips, like through school. not every school district,
That's an
even
incredible
in New York,
privilege.
has those.
Holy shit!
Like, exactly. Like, I was very, very lucky to be able to do that, and part of it was proximity, and part of it was just the district that I lived in, and part of it was like parents' willingness to put up the money for a day, bus trip to New York for their 12 and 13-year-olds. But it's just something that absolutely should be more accessible. And I think it's great when we put these things in movie theaters, but I think the reality is that even movie theaters are not as accessible as they used to be. And I think there's a huge population of people, a huge population of like theater kids and young people interested in theater, and, particularly people of color who it's great that they can see this, and it's great that this is made accessible.
It's inspirational.
More theater should be made accessible, but I think that this in particular was really important. I think Lin-Manuel knew that was important to see this, because I think there are so many, token parts in Broadway plays, or, we were just talking about Little Mermaid, because Little Mermaid has multiple actors of color in it in the original Broadway show, which was great. Norm Lewis is like an incredible King Triton. But I think it just is really important that this was made accessible for people, because I think representation matters, and, there's a lot more work to do, but I think it's still really important. And I think Philippa Sue had posted a video today or yesterday of a little girl watching, and she was pointing at Philippa Sue's character, at Eliza, and her mom said, "Oh, that's Eliza, and her brother said, like, "Oh yeah, that's Eliza," and this little girl goes, no, that's me, because this little girl saw someone in a Broadway musical who looked like her.
It's big, and
it was just so important and powerful. And so I think, especially given the casting of this musical and the focus on diversity of the actors and of
the representation in America,
the music, and
that's
yeah,
fucking
and so
cool,
I think
man.
It was just really important for that, even more so than other shows. Although all Broadway shows should be way more accessible, because current price points are bullshit, and Broadway and going to the theater should not be like a status symbol or like a class privilege. It should be widely available to all.
I co-sign everything that has been said.
Well said
by my predecessor.
You're a bunch of lawyery people. You people. You know how to say your words.
We do our best. All right, let's go ahead and finally take a dive into full spoilers for Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton dies.
Oh.
In a duel with Aaron Burr, and that's basically all I learned about him in school.
And so this musical presents a great opportunity to learn many more things about Alexander Hamilton.
Say it.
Alexander Hamilton,
like that. Hamilton. You don't have to say it that way. It's okay.
So yeah, there's the obvious caveat here of like, yeah, all this stuff, like if you're pretty versed in history, like none of this is really a spoiler. But for the Andrews and the Coltons of the world, and I would think there are many, and there are probably quite a few people that know even fewer than us. And the Anna pre-Hamilton, before she knew the ins and outs of it. But like there's a lot of kind of educational value of just kind of seeing this really, really fun riff on history and kind of learning it that way, which I'm sure, no disrespect to Mr. Ron Chernow, but I'm sure that this is far more entertaining than reading his book is. If I had to guess. Maybe I'm wrong, but you did say it was long, which, to be fair, this is not that long. So, yes. Aaron Burr does, in fact, kill Alexander Hamilton in a duel.
Bullshit.
And, But what I did like about this is I felt like, I will say certainly I knew more about Alexander Hamilton than I knew about Aaron Burr. All I knew about Aaron Burr was he was the guy that killed Alexander Hamilton, and there's kind of the end of the Alexander Hamilton introduction song is basically I don't know the exact line, but he's basically saying, I'm the
fool that killed him.
that shot him. Yeah. So right, so that's kind of his legacy at this point now, right? But I felt like this show did a great job of giving you a bit of a window into the lives of Alexander Hamilton, into the lives of Eliza Hamilton, into the lives of Aaron Burr, and some of these other. Lawrence is another person we talked about earlier who is something, a person that I don't think I knew anything about.
Until you look him up after the fact. I had to look him up after the fact.
Yeah. And so it's cool to kind of have this mashup of history and
what's fucked up too?
Excitement.
I'll tell you what's fucked up. I looked it up. You got this guy that's fighting in the Revolutionary War who wants to have a brigade of black people. Black people didn't earn the right to vote until what the fucking 60s or whatever. I thought that was fucked up. You got people at the beginning, at the inception of our nation, fighting for.
Okay, so
correct me.
Careful.
I will be careful. Tell me, educate me, please.
I would be surprised if Lawrence believed that black people had the right to vote.
Okay, fair enough.
I think you had a lot of abolitionists who believed that slavery was evil and should end, but they were really racist people who believed that segregation was the way to go. You also had a big chunk of abolitionists that thought we should end slavery and send all the black people back to Africa, which is also fucked up because, at this point, you're still shipping them off somewhere. Like, they're people, they make their own decisions.
Right.
So I think it's not so simple to think that people
don't idolize these people is what you're saying.
Well, not even that, just like an important distinction to make, that even people who thought slavery was evil and thought that, black people should not be enslaved didn't necessarily believe that black people were equal and should have equal rights,
right,
and opportunities. So that's just one of those things. I think, I don't know. I haven't looked up as much about Lawrence, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just like, oh yeah, they should be able to fight and die for the country, but like vote, no.
Right, right.
Or where a lot of abolitionists even drew the line was even people who believe that slavery should end did not think that interracial marriage should be allowed.
So it's been like a progression. It's been like
hills and valleys.
I got
Hills and valleys.
Hills and valleys.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think with Lawrence, particularly, like the way he dies is so sad because he's made it through. They've made it to the end of the war, and it's retreating British soldiers who kill him. And so I feel like that's just that kind of end is, I think Hamilton has a line earlier in the show about wanting to die in battle. Oh, it's in Right Hand Man. It's during that song. He talks about that. And so he kind of sees this as like either like you die in battle or like you get to rise above your station. And for Lawrence, it was like, okay, we got to the end of the war, we won, and then he dies. And I think for Hamilton, that was just like
it was a huge
crushing
blow. Yeah.
And this is I'm just interjecting quickly. We talked about the one song that was cut from the cast recording, and that was the song it was the letter from Lauren's father, basically telling.
Oh, the one that Eliza has to read aloud.
Yeah, and so that's a new thing for you when you saw it walking it, you're going to see it for the first time. Yeah, so I mean that's a pretty pivotal moment, right?
Yes. Well, and so that was what I was talking about earlier about the dual casting, because so I didn't know that Lawrence died until they reference it later in the show, and I was like, wait, what? Like the first time I listened, because you don't have that song, I didn't know Lawrence died, and I didn't think much of it because. I don't think I even caught it the first time I listened through, because the same actor who plays Lawrence plays young Philip Schuyler,
which I thought was funny. I laughed when he was sitting there playing the piano, and he's like, he's like a grown-ass
Well, and
man.
so when Anthony Ramos, who plays both of them, at the beginning in the first song, when he says, "Me, I died for him," it's a play because both of his characters
died. Both died for him.
Hamilton.
Yeah, sure.
One died fighting in the war, and the other one died defending his honor. So I think I saw that and thought, oh, it's his son. It's his son. And then you realize, oh, no, it's also Lauren's. It's both of them. They both die for him in a certain way. And so it's like these two really important...
Super poetic.
People in his life, in addition to his mother. It's just, he experienced a lot of loss and, yeah.
Well, I think this might provide a decent segue into talking about kind of the most emotionally impacting moments of the musical. Andrew, you said that you were moved to tears a couple times. I can personally attest to the fact that Anna also was. She admitted as much. There's no secret here, but I'm curious what it was for you, Andrew, that really hit you hard. I'm sure it was probably a second act kind of thing, because I feel like that's when kind of the hammers start to fall a little bit. But what was it that really kind of brought you to tears?
So you talked about Burn. That one definitely moved me to tears. That one had me doing the breathing techniques of crying. Mm-hmm. I think the shoot.
It's Quiet Uptown.
Which one's Quiet Uptown? I don't know these songs.
Quiet Uptown is after Philip dies.
Yeah. Okay.
And Angelica is the one singing it about Alexander walking through the streets, talking through the streets, have pity. Like that one. It's very sad and slow and.
Yes, that one. I think that one made me cry.
Kelly Clarkson does a cover of that for the Hamilton mixtape, and it just is devastating.
It's Quiet Uptown. That's the one that... Which one's the one that they talk about her opening up the orphanage?
Oh, that's the final song. Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Her Story.
That one?
I also cried at that. Yes.
That one made me cry.
I believe that was the third time I cried. I also cried during Best of Wives and Best of Women, which is like the one line. But
I cried during the one where Angelica's talking about how she missed her chance with him.
Satisfied.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's the one I want to talk about the stage with, because they really utilize, that's the number that I think that they use the turning stage they use the most in the duel sequences. Yep. Satisfied, because it helps them do the backwards thing.
Yep, that's right.
And I think that, oh God, she's just incredible.
Yeah,
there.
She crushes it in that song.
She's amazing.
I could have swore there was another song that was like non-typical, like it was just like the thought of things kind of made me kind of emotional.
Dear Theodosia.
Yeah, that one. Yes, that's the one where they're in the chairs, right?
Yeah.
Yep, that one got me. I was an emotional wreck throughout the thing. It was real fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we covered the songs. It's like 4 or 5 times I cried, like by the time. Yeah, it was rough.
It's funny, the first half of the show I count the amount of times I get chills, and then the second half of the show it's how many times I cry.
There you go. That's a good way to do it. I don't think I may have gotten chills. I can't quite remember.
I get them every single time I listen to Nonstop, and Leslie Odom Jr. says, and Hamilton wrote the other 51 when talking about the Federalist Papers. Every single time I listen to it.
Yeah, it's good.
Every time when he says that line, because that's insane. Like, I don't know if you guys ever had to read the Federalist Papers, like when you were in high school.
No,
we did, but I think the Northeast really stresses like revolutionary times more than other parts of the country.
Yeah, so your education in general, I think, is stressed a lot more than down here. I don't know.
It's possible.
It's okay. It's okay. I admit it. But
I think in New York, we love our connections to the Revolutionary War, so we focus on it more. But I think I read those and like realizing that, and actually, I think I read some in con law maybe last year. I can't quite remember, but I think realizing that, like, oh my God, like they wrote, one wrote 5, one wrote 25, and he wrote 51 essays in the span of 6 months is just insane and baffling to me. And I can't imagine it. And I feel like that's one of those things that really shows for us kind of firsthand, being able to read those, like the power of his mind and like the amount he was able to write, and like, just how fucking smart he was.
It's inspiring is what it is. I mean, it blows you away.
Yeah. Yeah, I think... Did you just do another song title pun? Blow us all away. Did you do that on purpose?
Yes. I'd like to think I did that on purpose. I don't think I did. But it's, I don't know, man. It's, like I said, it makes you feel, and now times I feel just in like the political nature of everything that's going on lately. It just feels like, God damn it. Like, why am I existing like right now? You know what I mean? Like, why is...
Well, I think it's nice to have something where, like, as flawed as he may be, as, like, fucked up as some of his beliefs were and some of his actions, like, this is a man who was orphaned at the age of, orphaned at the age of 12, was, you know, just put in, like, a really just awful circumstances from when he was young.
Yeah.
And was able to, you know, overcome that. And not only did he, you know, go to college and, like, become a lawyer and serve his country and become the first Secretary of the Treasury and create, you know,
the foundations of our country, essentially.
Right. And, like, create the bank and do all of this. He overcame all this to do it. And he just was so fucking smart. And, like, I think that a lot of people, like, smart people, don't necessarily know how to channel that, and he clearly did. And I think, you know, regardless of his flaws, his very real flaws, it is amazing, this story of an you know, the whole lyrics are like, you know, bastard immigrant, you know, all of that, and he overcame so much to accomplish so much. And there's a line that actually I believe is cut. I think it's only in the original version of Burn, where Eliza says, "We are your legacy." And, you know, so much about this is about his legacy, and his legacy is, you know, being killed, and his legacy is starting the bank. But there's so much more to it in terms of his family. And so I think it is nice to see a character, see a figure who did great things and was smart and listened to smart people and valued education and people who know what they're talking about. And, like, I mean, even just his endorsement of Jefferson over Aaron Burr, he was like, oh, it's not about my personal friendships or dislikes, because he was on better terms most of his life with Burr than with Jefferson.
He has something to stand for.
It wasn't about his personal feelings. It was about who's the best for this country. And, like, imagine that. A leader who puts the best interests of the country before his personal ones?
Yeah.
What a concept.
It's powerful, man. And that's what, you know, like I said, we all have our, you know, I don't know, but it's inspiring to see that kind of leadership. You know what I mean? As fictional as it may be, or whatever, it doesn't matter. As polished as it may be, that's probably the way to put it. It's polished. It's still, I don't know. Like I said, come 4th of July, you know, when you're trying to find, like, whatever it is you can find to like hold pride in your nation, you know, you have to look back a couple hundred years, you know, and you got to watch a musical about it. But that's what you got to do. That's what you got to do, you know, I guess. But I did. I felt prideful about, you know.
I will say that Eliza Hamilton. Eliza,
yes,
is absolutely the hero of the story.
Yes,
she's the best one. Eliza and Angelica are the best ones. Like, they're the best of the people in this show.
They definitely, I don't know. They had adversity as well, you know, and that
literally just women living in that time.
Yeah, exactly.
Just as women, just living then.
Exactly. And taking a person's legacy who betrayed you in the way he did, you know, and finding the value in what he did and trying to prolong his legacy, you know, it speaks volumes of the character of that person. And I don't know, it's inspiring too. It's all inspiring. It's all really good shit. So It's all super good shit, man. It's all,
It's all very good shit.
But let's talk about the king fucking spitting all over the stage. Can we talk about that?
We absolutely can.
So he comes out all awkward as fuck, talking about like, go ahead.
He's also such a beautiful man, and I never imagined that I could have been this disgusted with him.
So
but also, it was
hilarious.
perfect. I mean, it was perfect for the for the character and who he was. But my God, how? I just was he just collecting that spit for the whole first part of the show and
have you looked at it on your computer? Because I watched it on my TV, and I wasn't right up on my TV, but I was right up on my computer screen.
Oh,
And it's like he had a pocket of spit between his front teeth and his bottom lip, and his lips were particularly shiny. I mean, maybe that's like I don't know what that is, but he had it loaded.
it's all the spit.
Yes.
Yeah, that
So
was
good.
disgusting.
Oh, it was
And I
so
also
fucking
thought
good.
there were a couple other awkward like zooms. There were a couple of Aaron Burr, of Leslie Odom Jr. that I was like, you don't need to be this. Like his forehead's cut off. It's just I'm like, this is a bad shot. But with the king, I was like, oh, please zoom out. Please zoom out. I can't look at this anymore.
Sarah said at one point, "Oh God, he's just so awkward." It's like, yes.
Well, and that's why it's wild because
it's
if
so
you, like,
perfect.
watch Jonathan Groff anywhere else in anything else, he's not awkward. He's like this very charming, like charismatic, handsome man. And so to watch him as that, it was just like, who are you?
It was just so fucking perfect.
Yeah,
like
he was very funny. I love too when they bring out the stool and he's like, this isn't below my butt, and they move it, and then he was.
And then he does
great.
the one.
He was great.
I'm so blue. Poof, and he fucking
Yeah,
hits his
stomps
foot.
his foot.
Oh
Really
God
blue.
damn it! It's so perfect. Oh,
Yeah.
every time that
he was
dude
very
comes
funny.
on stage, I begin laughing. Like it's just
So did Colton.
Look, he was just goddamn delightful. What am I supposed to say? I thought that his parts were some of my favorites, honestly, in the show, of just these interludes of him coming in and being so fucking ridiculous.
it's
It
great.
was awesome, and it was fun, honestly, just seeing Jonathan Groff in like a way,
I had no
we
idea it
don't-
was Mindhunter until tonight. I had to
Right.
look it up.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, like he's not necessarily
But the
unrecognizable,
dude
it's
can
just
fucking sing, right? The way he hits those falsettos and shit, like he's just blah, 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 just fucking.
My first interaction with him, he was on Glee way back in the day, and I never finished that show, but I watched like a few of the first seasons, and he was in that, so it was all about him singing, and he was
okay.
great in that.
Dude's got a
But
fucking
yeah.
voice for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of funny when it is like a humorous song like that, but someone has a really good voice, and I feel like we kind of had those interludes with him and with Samuel Seabury and with not as much with Charles Lee because he doesn't sing. And I also did look it up, and it actually was different people playing Charles Lee and Samuel Seabury. So I don't know.
Who played your King George?
And I don't know.
Was it him?
No. Oh, no. So I saw this. So Jonathan Groff left. He was the first original cast member to leave the show. So actually at the time that this was filmed, Rory O'Malley was playing King George at that point in 2016. And when they knew they were going to film this for this,
They brought him back.
They asked him if he would, step aside so that Jonathan Groff could come back. So Jonathan Groff came back for 2 nights only.
Oh wow!
To film this. And then left again. So then there was a whole new cast that did Chicago. There was a whole new cast that did London. And then there was a whole new cast that did the first national tour. And then most of that, if not all of that cast changed for the second national tour. And I believe I saw the second national tour.
Gotcha. Can we talk about George Washington?
what do you, Christopher Jackson playing that role? What about him?
He fucking nailed. I thought it was fucking awesome.
Okay, yeah.
Did you also cry during his song?
About letting
all?
go.
Yeah. Teach
Yeah.
him how to say goodbye.
I definitely cried during that one too. Now that you say it, yes.
Yeah. That was
You bring up the
when he
songs and
says-
like where they're at.
Yeah.
I can pinpoint exactly where I got emotional. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's one last time. When he does the as the scriptures say, everyone sits under their own vine and fig tree, and that's what gets me. It's wild because
he just wants to wants to go back and be quiet,
hang out, with his slave.
It's we don't talk about his fucking slave teeth. I literally during our interlude, I went out to get my fucking champagne. I said, Sarah, did you know George Washington's teeth weren't fucking made of wood? They were made of slave teeth. Oh. She goes, yeah, I knew that. I'm like, I had no idea. That. Blew my mind. Anyways, fucking slave teeth. Jesus Christ.
Well, that's Florida education for you.
It just seems like some shit.
I'm guilty. I lived there.
That seems like some fucking Saul shit. Take the teeth out and put it in George Washington's head. What? Anyways, but yes.
But he was great. He has a beautiful, beautiful voice.
Yes, he does.
And I think I also like the part where he is like singing kind of over, and he and Hamilton are both saying the lines because Hamilton helped him write them, and he's giving the address. And I read that address both in con law last spring, and then also in a class I took last fall.
Oh.
And both times where I read it in his voice. Like I read it in Chris Jackson's voice.
That's incredible.
And in Lin-Manuel's voice. And so it was just kind of, it made it like more fun to like read it and learn it. I was like, oh, I've heard this before. Like the farewell address. Reading it just like made it really cool. But
it's funny that you say that. I didn't interpret it that way.
Right, that part where they're speaking, that's the real address.
And that's the real thing. And he's in the duality there between him reading it and him reading it at the same time is because Hamilton wrote it. Mm-hmm.
He helped him write it, yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking cool.
Yep.
See?
Yeah, it was very, very cool. But yeah, I think it's funny because I think so many of my favorite... Well, I don't know if you had a thought on that. And maybe I shouldn't take it in this direction. But when we were watching it, I was basically saying whether or not something was in my top 3 favorite songs from this. Now, I understand that you guys haven't had as long to sit with it. I've sat with it for 4 years now. So I know what my favorites are. And my favorites are Wait For It, Nonstop, and Burn.
Wait For It is what?
Wait For It is the Aaron Burr solo. So I don't even know. That's just my top 3, not in any particular order. But I think I realized that I love Nonstop because it brings in pieces of all these other songs. So like Nonstop features parts of, I think History Has Its Eyes on You. It has parts of Satisfied. It has parts of Helpless. It has parts of the Schuyler Sisters. And then... That Would Be Enough, and so it kind of pulls in all these
sweet
different
song. That Would
parts.
Be Enough.
Yeah, and so I love Nonstop because it has so many pieces of those other ones in it.
That one made me cry.
But yeah, That Would Be Enough. Did it all? Yeah, that one was cute because I guess the context of that is when he comes home and realizes she's pregnant.
That Would Be Enough. Yeah, it's sweet.
It's beautiful.
It's a sweet song. God damn it. Lynn, you're making me cry all the time, Lynn.
Well, Anna, I'm glad you pulled it into this direction because I think...
Death Doesn't Discriminate, is that the song? Between the Sinners and the Saints, yes. Okay.
That's Wait For It. Yeah.
Okay. I gotta look at the lyrics to these songs because I don't know the...
Yeah, the titles. Yeah, because Leslie Odom Jr., I absolutely love him. I think he has an incredible voice.
Yeah,
like
he
I said, I
does.
think you need to listen to the recording because he's even better in the recording than he is
when he gets that
show.
When he gets that real passionate, angry, fucking raspy tone, he fucking nails it. It's so good.
Don't keep all my hands close to my chest. Wait for it. Yes. He also has a fantastic Christmas album, I will say.
Oh, really?
Really good. Yes. It's excellent. So I highly recommend. That's a favorite of mine. Oh, he also did a really cool thing with This American Life, the like NPR podcast. Yeah. And it was
that's This American Life.
Yeah. So it was with him and Sarah Bareilles, who I love. Who also, has experience on Broadway. She wrote a whole Broadway show as well, Waitress, which great movie too. Andy Griffith's in that. Sorry. But she wrote this song for This American Life, and then Leslie Odom Jr. sang it, and the premise of it was like early 2017. They imagined like what Obama's really thinking as he leaves office about like what's about to happen to the country, essentially. And it's like a very clever song and it's good lyrics, but it's also just like a really good song. And it's Leslie Odom Jr. singing. So that's also an excellent thing to listen to if you want more Leslie Odom Jr. And his singing voice in your life, which I certainly do because he's incredible.
He's fucking talented, yes.
Yeah, he is.
If my memory serves me correctly, I do recall listening to a few Leslie Odom Jr. Christmas tracks on a winter playlist, maybe a Christmas playlist, maybe in the car, maybe.
Oh my God, I forgot he did a version of Winter Song, which also has a Sarah Bareilles and Ingrid Michaelson. And I have a whole playlist, just those two songs and this one other song, and I just listen to it on repeat. I totally forgotten. Yes, you've probably heard that approximately 3,000 times. I'm so sorry, but also not sorry. You're welcome.
Well, I have some thoughts, and I think we could probably start to conclude. Wind down. Yes, that's the phrase I was looking for. I did have
Simply
one
Christmas.
Thought.
I don't mean to diverge and go
Simply
back.
Christmas that's the one. Anna says that's the one.
If Winter Song is on it. Oh, yeah. If whatever one Winter Song is on.
Winter Song is Winter Song here, and there's Winter Song right there.
Yes.
Track number 11.
So good.
I will give it a heart. Boop. There we go.
It has been hard.
Yep.
I had one thought, and this is probably this is like a throwback at this point by the time I'm getting around to making this comment, but I wrote a thing for law school, and I happened no, I didn't write a song. No, I don't think I'm that talented. I don't think I have that in me. No. I wrote a paper which talked about the use of the pardoning power, which
I remember that. Yeah.
Which is something that is found in our Constitution. And I quoted something from one of the Federalist Papers, and I had to go back and look and see who wrote one of those Federalist Papers, and I'm so disappointed. It's not Alexander Hamilton. It was one by James Madison.
Rotten fuck.
I thought I had the perfect just thing to just throw out there and be like, yeah, and it was from Alexander Hamilton, and I was just like, damn it, it wasn't. Damn it, I can't lie about it, but
I'm sorry. It just made me realize that one of the things I meant to talk about earlier, and this made me think of it because of James Madison always coughing in the cabinet battles. That was something that I don't think I realized, that he was just perpetually coughing, just coughing into his hanky the whole time.
Yeah, what was his deal?
I don't know. That's one I'd have to look up. But that thing where he says, bend over, I'll show you where my shoe fits. Just a thing I wanted to touch on is that there were 2 F-bombs cut from the show.
For Disney.
And
because it got picked up by Disney or whatever, right?
Right. And they said it has to be cut down to PG-13. And so PG-13, obviously, you can only have 1 F-bomb. So it's kind of frustrating because the one they kept was the Reynolds letter, in Say No to This, where he says, that was my whore wife, you decided to fuck. So they don't actually say fuck, but it's just where he's saying fuck, and he's saying it both as fuck, oh God, I just realized this woman is married, or not even that. I guess he knows she's married, but knows that her husband knows, but he's also saying fuck because that was my whore wife, you decided to fuck. And when it has a sexual meaning, you really, really, really can only have 1. And so, even though they didn't fully say it, they had to, he went with that one to keep, and he cut the other 2. One is just faded out, and then the other one is a record scratch. But again, listen to that original cast recording because you'll get to hear them because they're both good. And one is Hercules Mulligan says, I get the fuck back up again. And I think that's during Yorktown, at the end of Yorktown. And then the other one is during Washington on Your Side. And it's Burr, Madison, and Jefferson who say, that they're, Southern Democratic motherfucking Republicans. And it's just really good and satisfying. I had thought about this because I was thinking about just all of Alexander's kind of mic drop moments and his little dig at John Adams, the "sit down, John, you fat motherfucker," which
he says that.
Well, they beep it out. But they do like a cut to him that he's said
God
this
damn,
about
John
Adams,
Hamilton,
who's the
Alexander
only other
Hamilton.
Right. He didn't say it in real life, but in the show they have him saying,
no.
"Sit down, John, you fat motherfucker," and it's just it cracks me up. And anyway,
but that's on the original thing.
No, they still beep that out, I believe, in the original. I can't remember now. I think they bleep that out, but they don't. I would like
to hear that. I would.
Yeah, they don't bleep out the other two that are cut. So.
I'd also like to go back in time and hear him say that as well.
I don't think he said it in real life.
Oh,
I don't think he said it in real life. But I will say also, you must listen to the Hamilton mixtape, which is that series of covers, and some of them are like whatever. There's some really excellent ones. Jill Scott does a cover. The Roots does "My Shot." I
imagine that's probably pretty good.
Oh, it's so good. There's this song called "Immigrants" that like takes a couple lines from the show, but it's an amazing collection of people. And then like I said, Kelly Clarkson does it. It's "Quiet Uptown." And then Chance the Rapper does "Dear Theodosia." And it's
that's
beautiful.
Probably
and
good.
then Ingrid Michaelson does "Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story," and it's just all.
Our MD friend recommended the mixtapes, I think.
Yeah, well, and you have to look because he was going to do a volume 1 and a volume 2, and he put out volume 1, which is really excellent and great, but there's some songs missing from it because it doesn't go in the same order as the show. They literally mix it up. And then he did the Hamil Drops, which were just a series of singles he dropped the next year. And there's a Sarah Bareilles one in there. And there's also a mix of, it's called Found Tonight, and it's with Ben Platt and a song from Dear Evan Hansen. So that's a separate thing that's just listed as a playlist on Spotify. But all of that's really excellent. Basically everything from the mind of Lin-Manuel Miranda is just absolutely the man's a genius, and it's excellent. And I think, like Hamilton, I think Lin-Manuel has some problematic, angles, but I think overall he's like a really good dude who gives a shit about people, who cares about what he makes this art about, and he's so talented. His wife is amazing. His whole family is just really cute, and yeah, it just, like you said, makes you feel good, makes you feel inspired. He does great work. So, yeah. Also, he's a dog person, so
it always helps. Everybody likes a dog person.
Yeah, we don't trust cat people around here.
Well, I do. I do have cats.
I hope Clo wasn't in earshot of that remark, but
it was not. No, the door has been closed.
All right, good. It's fine then. Where everything's good then. I think the only appropriate place to end our Hamilton conversation, Anna, you kind of unfortunately already went in this direction, but I think it's favorite songs. And Andrew, I understand you and I are kind of on the same page of we can't really name the
whole fucking thing was a song, so I have trouble discerning.
Sure. So I will. I think it's acceptable if you name like your top 3 moments, I guess, because Anna again offered her top 3, and why don't you go ahead and restate them because it might have been some time.
Yeah. So my favorites are, and this is just the order they appear in the show, is "Wait for It," which is Leslie Odom Jr. as Aaron Burr explaining kind of his life and where he stands, and it's just an awesome song, and it just really is very empowering and awesome. And then "Nonstop," which is mostly Burr and Hamilton, but also with Angelica and Eliza and Washington a little bit. And that's the last song of the first act when the war is over, and Hamilton, goes to New York, and he's a lawyer, and it brings
I went back to New York. Is that that song? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's just like almost like a medley, and I love it, and it just has so much high energy, and it just ends it's really awesome. And then finally Burn, mostly because Philippa Sue is just absolutely incredible. And of course that's the one when Eliza realizes that Alexander has not only cheated on her, but cheated on her for an entire summer and brought this woman to their home and had an affair with her. And now he has told the whole world in a published pamphlet what he did. So it's her pain and her burning all the letters he wrote. And it's just, oh God, it's so fucking good. And especially when you get to see her do it. So those are my top 3.
Thank you for offering those. So I don't know, Andrew, if you need a second, I can go ahead and offer my uncultured,
ahead,
my uncultured, only seen Hamilton once. I have listened to it a little bit more since then, but not all the way through, admittedly. So I can offer kind of my initial 3 that I really liked, and I think it's Act 1 centric. I think it's just, I don't know. I guess it's one of those things you just need to experience it multiple times, listen multiple times, and it probably changes. So this is, again, purely based off of one literal viewing of the show. My Shot, I think, is great. It's like,
I'm not going to waste my shot, that song.
Yeah, and that recurs throughout the show, and I enjoy that motif, and I feel like that was just a really, really kind of good ensemble song. I'm going to agree on Wait For It. Anna asked me after we watched it, what were the songs that you liked? And I couldn't name the song at the time, but I said, the Aaron Burr song, and I was just like, it was just really good. And Leslie Odom Jr. is just great. He's incredible. And I think his voice is maybe one of the best. And just his singing voice is just really, really powerful. And maybe it's better on the cast recording. I cannot attest to that personally, but, I really, really enjoyed his performance there. And number 3 is hard because there's no bad song in the bunch, I would argue, at least based, again, off my one viewing. But
which one?
I'm debating. I'm internally debating. I'll say Satisfied. Because
that one's really good.
Yeah, it's Renee Elise Goldsberry just owning it, and so I guess it's kind of, I have My Shot as that good ensemble piece, whereas the other 2 are just powerhouse performers just owning the stage. And I think those 2 songs with Leslie Odom Jr. and Wait For It and Goldsberry with Satisfied, just really, really amazing. And Satisfied is good because first of all, it has that amazing just kind of production in the beginning with the rewind kind of stuff, but it goes through there's a lot of amazing singing in it, and then it kind of goes to more of a faster kind of rhythm, almost, I don't know if it's quite hip hop, but hip hop inspirations, if nothing else. Yeah.
She raps in that. Sorry. We see that obviously Lin-Manuel has some really fast verses, and David kills it a couple times with incredibly fast ones, but Angelica fucking raps, and she does a great fucking job. And I think that's part of what makes that song just stand out so much. But it is, I think that's that song is a really good example of the way that this production not only thought more creatively about their set and about their casting. I mean, she's 13 years older than Philippa Sue, who plays her sister, and I want to say she's 9 years older. I think 9 years older than Lin-Manuel. So it's a kind of a, obviously she's not old, but an older black woman cast in this role is huge. And then you have this mix of music in that song, the cool stage production, and just the idea that the maid of honor is describing how the night that her sister fell in love with her husband was also the night she fell in love with him. I think that song is really a good. Is
Satisfied?
In a way really, yeah, very satisfying. Very. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think just very representative of the show in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. And I kind of just, like I said, I like the diversity in terms of the composition of the track, but it is also, and this is somewhat taking a step back. This Hamilton is not my first exposure to Renee Elise Goldsberry. Andrew and I have seen her in Altered Carbon, which we talked about many moons ago on this podcast. And she plays Kel in a very different role. And I'm not going to say that she's good in that, but this is next level type shit.
Oh, for sure.
Like, you know, like, holy shit. Like, I would have never guessed from watching Altered Carbon that she had this in her. And so good on her for obviously, you know, being able to branch out and do a, you know, TV show for a couple seasons, although I still haven't finished the second season. Don't know that I will. She's amazing. She's amazing. And so I like it. It really has changed my complexion of how I see her as an actor, because as much as I thought she was good in that, this is seriously just incredible. So yeah, those are my top three. Andrew, I feel like hopefully I've given you enough time. Even if you can't pinpoint song names, do you have any just specific moments you can shout out? So I'm looking
at on
you sing them. I'll identify them.
I don't know if you'll be able to identify them. That's the problem.
I identified Moulin Rouge from whatever was coming out of your mouth, didn't I?
That's true. Uka buka she muwa.
Oh no.
You can move on.
Anyways, I'm looking at probably looks like 47 different songs on Wikipedia here. So I'm gonna say that I'm just gonna lump them together. I really appreciate the King George songs.
Mm-hmm.
They're well acted. They offer a I think that they offer a poetic contrast to the entirety of the show. I think they're important because they lend that continental point of view, which is not continental, European point of view, which is completely void throughout the entire thing. It's the only point of reference that you have from the opposing side. But they're also comedic, which is awesome.
And catchy as shit.
And they're catchy as shit, yes. Yeah, I think they're great. So whatever songs that King George pops up in, I'm about.
You'll Be Back, What Comes Next, and I Know Him.
Yes, those three songs. Perfect. Good. And then I'm going to say that I enjoyed, let's see here. That first song, I think that first song really sets the precedence for the entire production.
Literally Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, I really like Alexander Hamilton, that first song. I thought that was, like I said, it sets the stage, it sets the hooks, sets the pace. And I think that's really important for like a 3-hour musical. You know, it tells you what you need to expect. It
really takes the Shakespeare route of the first bit of a bunch. I mean, think about like beginning of, well, I don't know about Florida Education, but like the beginning of Romeo and Juliet. The first paragraph of Romeo and Juliet is they lay out the story and they say like, this is about two star-crossed lovers who die. Like that's the first, paragraph. And so I think this has a lot of those elements.
Yeah.
Like, I'm the one who shot him. I died for him. It spoils it. It says all these women who loved him. It tells you who died for him. It tells you who, it tells you all of it right up at the front. They tell you what's going to happen. And so I agree. I think it is really important for setting the scene and laying out what's about to happen.
So that's one song, and then my third song would have to be I don't know, 3's tough. 3 is really tough.
Yeah, it is. It took me 4 years to figure it out, so valid.
Because I could say Satisfied. Colton already said Satisfied, so we won't say that. Did anybody say Dear Theodosia?
Theodosia. Nope, no one did.
No one did? I'll say that. And I'll say that because it gives it lends perspective to both men. At the end of the day, both of these people are people. I think it humanizes both ends of it. both of them want to leave despite their shortcomings, they want to leave a better place for their children.
Yeah.
And I think that's, I got a dog. I don't have any kids. But I think
you want to leave a better world for him.
Exactly. For little Theodore, I'd like to live I'd like to leave him in a better place than what I caught up in, which our current state is setting the bar pretty low. I think we could probably come a long ways from wherever we're at. But yeah, I think that's the sentiment that a lot of fathers have is they want to leave a better place than what they found, and I don't know. I thought that was a really touching song.
It's beautiful. Is this a bad time to tell you that Theodosia was lost at sea when she was 29?
No. Was she really?
Yeah. Aaron Burr's whole life is just a giant tragedy. Yeah. Yeah, his daughter was 29. They don't know what happened. There were a bunch of rumors that she was kidnapped by pirates and stuff, but she probably just died in a shipwreck.
Ooh, gosh, I didn't know that. See? Mm-hmm. Well, then it adds tragedy to that song.
Yeah, it really does. Once you learn that, you go back. It's just... Also, listen to the Sarah Bareilles version of Dear Theodosia reprise, which was I can't remember which point it was supposed to be, but it was cut from the show. It was a song that was cut from the show that Sarah Bareilles ended up doing for a release, and it's also really beautiful.
So yeah, I mean, there's probably 43 other songs that I could have chose to be my favorite songs, but I would say that's probably a fair shake.
Well, look, I mean, I'm no expert. I defer to the expert on this, but I think good picks all around. I think good picks all around. I will say. So I think.
The last song.
No one picked Farmer Refuted.
Who lives? Who dies? Who tells the story?
Your story.
That song right there was excellent too. So, and that one does a real good job because I mean that kind of sets that. Kind of hammers it home that Eliza is the American is just the fucking hero of the story. You know what I mean? She's the reason we're receiving a musical treatment of Hamilton's shit. She's the reason we're doing it. You know what I mean? Because people could have trampled his name throughout history or whatever, but she's the one that defended it throughout her lifetime. So her legacy is his legacy, and that song right there is fucking incredible too. That made me cry. That last song. So there's all sorts of songs that made me cry. There's no shortage of tears when I watch this shit. I highly recommend everybody watch it. That's my 2 cents.
I think that's our collective 2 cents. Absolutely.
Take it to the bank.
We've spent a long time talking about Hamilton. It's for
take
good
it to the bank.
Reason.
Hamilton made the fucking bank. Boom. How about that?
I have nothing else to offer. Andrew, you might have something else to offer about what you've been up to recently, perhaps.
I did go to Georgia.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was good. I went white water rafting.
Rafting?
No, rafting. White water rafting.
All right,
it's a fucking tongue twister to say that.
Yeah, sure.
But I did it.
Just don't help, but yes, I get it.
And that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that thoroughly. We celebrated 4th of July up there, and we watched some fireworks, and that was cool. And that's I don't know. That's pretty much all I've been at since last time we recorded.
Well, it has been a shorter time period than it was, I guess, when we recorded last anyway. So yeah, fair enough. Did you have a good fireworks show?
Yeah, it was pretty decent. It wasn't bad.
Was it like a city thing or
no?
You guys do your own or what? What was it?
So like the street that the house is on, that the cabin's on, all the people there are pretty much retired and they live there full time. And it's a really tight-knit community up there on that street that my dad has his place at. So it's actually pretty cool. They all get together. They hired a band that came in and played some music. I wasn't there for that. I wanted to go home and play board games and relax. So we went over there. We went over there and took a nap and played some board games, and then we came back. And then that night, everybody hopped on their golf carts and side by sides and stuff, and we went to like this hill, and they were lighting the fireworks off this giant hill, which was really picturesque. The full moon was coming up behind this tree that was all alone on this big hill. So like it was illuminating the entire hill, and behind this tree, Sarah took a picture of it. I thought it was pretty good. I'll send it to you, or she'll send it to you, or whatever. But it was, like I said, I thought it was real picturesque. And then beyond that, the fireworks were shooting off beyond this like one tree hill, which was I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. And the fireworks lasted for probably 20 minutes, and it was like the community pitched in and bought these fireworks, so they weren't like just sparklers. They were pretty decent fireworks. They're the ones that like echo through the mountains. Like I don't know if you've ever been in the mountains for fireworks, but it's pretty fucking epic. Like they go boom, 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 and it echoes off all through the fucking mountains, and it's super epic. Fireworks in the mountains, pretty cool. But yeah, that's pretty much all I did. Nice. Fireworks and whitewater rafting. Whitewater rafting.
Rafting. No, not rapping.
Wow.
Yeah. Hamilton's got y'all fucked up. We get it. So we went on our own little fireworks adventure of our own in the city of Philadelphia. No mountains to be seen or anything like that. But on the 4th was, I think, overall a little bit of a disappointment for us because...
Well, speak for yourself, motherfucker, she said.
For fireworks, yeah. For fireworks specifically for the 4th, we were on a second floor, and we just couldn't get a great vantage point on anything, and so we ended up kind of trying to go outside and like walk around and see if we could find some fireworks, but I don't know, I don't know if it wasn't meant to be, at least for the 4th, but...
Well, and I had, last year, I'd been in the same apartment, and I had a good view of some. It was really good, and it was at like 10 p.m. and they were great. And this year they were like behind a tree, and I was like, I don't know if the tree just grew a lot or what, but we just couldn't see them, and we tried. And then last night on the 5th, they were great. It must have been someone just one street over, and just the spot they were at. I mean, we had a perfect view
to good fireworks.
Yes, and so they're legal, at least for purchase in Pennsylvania, and so they've been setting them off all summer. Like, whatever.
Are they the 4-inchers, the big mortars that shake the earth when they fucking go off?
Yes, I don't know. I couldn't see them when they were being set off, but they shook the earth.
Boom! And they just fucking bah! Oh, they're so good when they fucking shake the earth.
Yeah, and it was funny because at first they were setting them off kind of, one and then another and then another. And then it was quite clear that they were testing them because then probably like 4 or 5 times over the course of like an hour or two, maybe, they would set off a bunch at once that really felt like a real fireworks show. It was just in segments, and it was great. I mean, it was really, we had a perfect view of them. I think the last ones were around like 11:15 or something, but it was great. It was, I love fireworks. Every
who doesn't fucking love fireworks?
Yeah, people with dogs
don't like fireworks.
But yeah, I'm used to being up in Vermont for the 4th, and we always like go on the beach of Lake Champlain, and we can see all around the lake in Vermont and in New York, all the different places people are setting them off, and we've gone to professional ones up there and just the amateur ones from our beach, and like with our bonfires and stuff like that, and I love it, and so I was really, really excited last night too. Really see some good ones.
We got some real good ones last year for the New Year's in the mountains in Blue Ridge, and we had to get these like PVC like things, like the mortars, the launchers, and you light them. And I swear to God, dude, they were so potent. I mean, we were setting them off, so we were right underneath them, so that might have something to do with it. we would light them and we'd run back, and it would boom like it was. They were just fucking serious fireworks, and every time they'd go off, they'd just like rattle your chest. You know, you could feel the concussion in it, and it was just so cool. This year, some folks down the road in like the valley, they're because I mean you have to like drill that shit in a plywood base, otherwise they'll like tip over and stuff. Well, the people down the road in the valley there, they must have had some sort of malfunction because their shit tipped over, and their mortars launched towards their house. And
oh no!
Yeah, it was going off. The doubles, you see the sparks go, and then they ignite. All that shit was happening, like in the valley towards their cabin. And after that, I mean, I couldn't help but laugh. Yeah, it rained. You know, the shit wasn't gonna catch fire, but you know, the people down there were. They had to be freaking out. You could see them. You could see their silhouettes running away from the fireworks. And anyways, after it all settled over there at the far end, the whole valley, like on that far end over there, because like I was looking towards the looking towards the east. These people were to the south. Right, so they were down there. Like when their fireworks would go off, we would have to turn our necks to look at them. Well, anyways, after this big thing happened and all their fireworks started shooting towards this house or whatever, the whole valley was just full of smoke. Like it was just, it looked like it all caught fire. You couldn't even see their house anymore, their lights or anything else. It was pretty crazy. It was pretty fucking funny. I laughed a lot.
I mean, I'm like glad nothing lit on fire and there were no like, you know, forest fires or like a house fire.
But they were freaking out a little bit, and that was
understandable.
It's fucking fireworks. That's what happens. You know, you sign a waiver when you buy the shit. It's pretty funny.
Fucking fireworks, yo.
Especially when they're the big ones, though. When those go off, because like New Year's, we had a mishap. They kind of shot towards the house one time because the fucking plywood thing broke a little bit when it was shooting off. And so it gets a little sketchy with the fireworks when you're not a professional, and it's I don't know. It's exciting. Anyways, so that's all I've got. I haven't really watched a whole lot of anything or done anything since last time we recorded.
Well, to be honest, speaking collectively here for Anna and myself, we haven't been up to a whole lot in terms of volume, but we've done a few things. We did on the 4th. We'll rewatch Captain America: The First Avenger. Felt appropriate. You watched little Mel Gibson. We chose to go in a different direction.
Chris Evans, on the other hand, not a piece of shit, a national treasure, in fact. So, that's what we should have watched.
National Treasure? Fuck yes!
Let's watch that tonight.
Bonus episode, National Treasure.
Oh, I am so in for that. I'm in. But we got to do 1 and 2.
I'm still in Declaration of Independence. Fucking guy.
Yeah, I think Captain America was very fitting, and I think after we had watched Infinity War and Endgame and Captain Marvel last weekend, I just was really feeling like I wanted to watch Captain America, and I hadn't watched, the last time I had watched it was 2 years ago, right before Infinity War. Well, I gotta correct myself. I saw Infinity War the first time in theaters, and then spent a month doing a rewatch of everything, and then saw it in theaters again. So that was the last time, like last May, that I had seen it. So I wanted to watch it again. But I love Agent Carter. I love Peggy. I love her. I think I might have to do an Agent Carter rewatch soon. But I just, especially after watching Endgame, I felt like I really needed to do a little rewatch of Captain America, so we rewatched it, and part of that was also in anticipation of going back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
You're not going to do a rewatch of that. There's like 19 seasons of that.
No,
shit.
not a rewatch, but we were both behind. So the current season, which just recently came back, I feel like a month ago, I know that there's some crossover with Agent Carter, so it made me really excited. The season before that, the one that aired last summer, and the summer before that, there wasn't. They took a break between Infinity War and Endgame. Or not before, there was a break somewhere in there. But between Infinity War and Endgame. But last year, I had watched like one episode, and it just didn't do much for me. I was like, I don't want to really feel like watching this right now. And so I'd put it aside. And I think Colton had watched like a few episodes, maybe, or something like that. So we had talked like a while ago about how we were going to, once it was on Netflix, like the whole season and everything, we were going to go and watch, like, because we were a season behind. So go watch that and then, watch this season. So yesterday we started watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we watched a couple episodes of, is this season 6 that we're on? We're on season 6. So they're currently on their 7th and final season. So we're 2 episodes into, or almost 2 episodes into season 6 now.
Which is the one where they had just gone to space. Is that right?
So yes, they had fixed the like Earth blowing up time travel thing. And so this one opens with Fitz is somewhere in space in, sleep, cryo sleep or whatever.
Is this the one where Coulson is like a bad guy?
Yes. So we don't know we just found out that he has the same DNA as Coulson, but we don't know anything else except his name is Sarge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
very
are like,
early in it.
Like right where the last time I watched it. So
okay. You should rewatch it too. You go back to it, and start watching it.
I don't know.
The 6th season is fully on Netflix, so it's pretty accessible. It's only 13 episodes too, and I know you're a fan of shorter things. Season 6 and season 7, the final season, are both going to be 13 episodes. So it's, I feel like the early seasons of S.H.I.E.L.D., even though they split into those kind of pods, were still 20 plus episodes, and this is, I feel like, a little bit more manageable in terms of just content. So yeah, it's not the most riveting show, but if I can suffer through a lot of CW shows, you can suffer.
I can
through
suffer
Agents of
through
S.H.I.E.L.D.
that. Yeah, it's true. Suffer, not suffle.
Also Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is great. Yeah, so it is. Yeah, it's.
I don't mean to throw the CW shows in there to disparage Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think
2 different levels of
yeah. I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., ebbs and flows certainly, but a good show on the whole. I think overall, great characters and stuff. So I enjoy it a lot. It's come a long way, let's say. Anyway, so to round things out, this is purely non-film, non-television related. We've been spending a lot of fucking time revisiting a game that came out actually, I think, fairly early on in the Switch lifetime. And it's a game that I played single player, and I didn't find a whole lot of enjoyment in. Like, it was fun, but then I got burnt out on it, and I just couldn't find anyone to play it with. ARMS has found a new kind of lifeline.
No way, for real?
Yeah, we've been putting hours into that shit recently.
I fucking love ARMS.
Who do you play as? Do you play as that Japanese chick
Twintel.
with the fucking...
That's Min. So he does sometimes, but I'm Twintel all the way. She's the one who her hair is the fists. So her hands just sit on her hips while she punches you with her hair. I fucking love her. She's got the coolest outfit, the coolest reaction. She's French. Yeah, she's a French black woman with hair that punches you. She's fucking awesome. I love her. My favorites are to do the normal fist on the left and then the nunchuck called the Fun Chuck fist on the right.
Fun Chuck.
I fucking love this game. I think this is going to turn into one where I'm like begging him to play with me because I love this game. I think I had always enjoyed like Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resorts and like the sword fighting, and I liked the boxing, but that shit gets so annoying because it gets off after you play like 2 rounds. It forgets where you are. This does not. And we had played Ring Fit and we had talked about that and like how it's like, it's exercise, it's very active, it feels good, but it's still exercise. You know, it's still like a chore in some ways. I love this game. I think he pulls his punches more, so he's kind of sitting there like bum 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 bum, and I'm just like swinging my hands wildly, like I'm moving
Watch
around.
out,
I'm
bitch.
sweating by the end. When I have to wait because something is loading, I just turn and punch him.
Holy
it's
shit.
great. It's a
real abusive kind of situation. Sounds like
no, not at all. He tenses his core, and I just like punch his abs a little bit. It's good. It's always with consent. We always. Usually. No, it's very mutual. I feel like,
says the one that's delivering the beating. It's very consensual.
He could say stop anytime and I would stop. And, but usually we play as a team and we fight against two of them on their side.
Or you can fight against my side because I own arms.
Can we play that over the internet? We can?
So I actually thought about it earlier, and I couldn't remember for sure because I feel like Andrew, I feel like you bought the game and like you barely played it, much like myself.
Yeah, it's like I played it for a couple turns. It's like, yeah, I'm not doing this shit.
Yeah, I think there's a decent learning curve with like the controls because
like
it's
the curving fists and
you really got to like kind of get into it.
Because it's not about like swinging your fist around to the side. It's still about swinging it forward, but with an angle. So you still go forward, but with an angle. You don't have to, but it'll make her go around. So, yeah. And oh God, it's just so fucking fun. And I love this game.
It's fun.
Let's play it right now. Let's play it right now.
we might, no, well, maybe not yet. I remember that I had it. Like I have a Switch case that can store like 12 games in it, and I hadn't had it in it for a long time. And I finally accumulated enough Switch games that I had to like reorganize my case to figure out like, oh shit, what do I want to actually carry with me? And I saw it over there, and we had been playing Wii Sports and Sports Resort as Anna was talking about, and that was like, I'm like, oh, this is like kind of like the evolution of that.
Let's try it.
I like brought it up, and I was just like, why don't we give this a go? And we fought each other one-on-one for a little while, and then we realized there was a team fight option, and we've been doing that and
you've been fucking up other people,
kicking ass. We bumped up in difficulty level. We kicked some ass. Yeah, we make a pretty good team. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Like it's one of those things like early on that I bought for I probably bought it for full price.
Probably. Yeah. It was one of those high ticket items to have there when
I'm sure at the time I was just like, oh, this would have been a good $40 game or a $30 game, but for $60 I'm like, nah. But like now I'm just, yeah, cool. I'm glad I have it. It's really worked out really well. So aside from beating the shit out of each other, aka Anna beating the shit out of me, we've been playing some board games. We played a little bit of Splendor. We played a couple games, I think yesterday. We split it. I handily beat her the first game. The second game, she beat me.
Because he did a big dumb thing. But to be fair, while we were playing both rounds, it was while we were getting up every 15 minutes to like run to go watch fireworks on the deck. So they kept getting interrupted, to be fair. Anyway, Splendor is great. Everyone should check that out. It's the first couple tries, it's you got to learn, but once you do, it's really fun. So, but we did play a round of Star Wars Trivial Pursuit, which
nice.
To no one's surprise, I won. So we also though have done I had played it before ages ago. Like I feel like I was like a teenager or something. And I played it like once and it hadn't stuck because I didn't like it because it was too long. But we did play a new game.
A new game?
We had gotten it. I feel like we got it you got it in the mail like a month ago. But we just played it for the first time this weekend.
What'd you get? What's it called?
It's called Phase 10.
Oh, fuck Phase 10. Fuck that fucking game. That game lasts so long. I know Phase 10. That fucking game.
What's your introduction to Phase 10? Like where's
my
your
introduction to Phase 10 was it's like a 4-hour fucking card game. It's like fuck you. I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm done. Fucking Phase 10.
Okay.
Haley. We play these board games with Stephen and Haley, and Haley loves Phase 10. So we played Phase 10, and that shit lasted for fucking hours. It's like Monopoly on goddamn cards. I'm done. I want to get up.
I can see it.
So
that was my take on it. That I didn't like it. I was like, this is too complicated. It's too long. I don't like this. And I was open to relearning it like with this. I'm wondering if maybe I almost like it better with just two people. Like we had talked about how it's really different with more than two people because you really use the whole deck and like whatever. But I actually didn't hate it. And we took a break after the first 5 phases and like did something else. We probably played Arms.
The first
I don't remember
5 phases. But there's 10 phases.
5. Yeah. Yeah. I think probably with fewer people it goes faster. But I thought it was fun. I'd play again. I would play again.
So yeah, base 10's cool, you know? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think look, we've been going for a good long haul here. I promised bare minimum of news, and we ended up just going completely off the deep end with Hamilton itself. But
I'm so sorry. This is entirely my fault. I'm sorry.
We even cut out the news, Anna, and it's not
enough. Can you imagine though if we had 13, 14 pieces of news and then Hamilton? We would be here for 5 hours, literally.
Can you also imagine if I wasn't restraining myself? Because I have so much more to say. Okay, bye.
She's still here for the record. But anyway, thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, please spread the word. Patreon, Andrew and I still have some Ghibli movies to watch. Many Ghibli movies to watch, in fact.
Princess Mononoke, number 1.
It's on the list of our 1990s. It's towards the later part of of that particular period. But yes, Princess Mononoke will be amongst the bunch that we catch when we talk about it. So yeah, if you want to, listen to our virus episode, COVID-19 pandemic special, it's up right now on Patreon, patreon.com/watch-review-repeat. I talked about 6 films that are virus related. And we will be doing our Ghibli coverage hopefully very soon, sometime in July, we hope, and we'll let you know when that's up and ready to go for our Patreon supporters. Otherwise, if you have anything that you need to know about our podcast, watchreviewrepeat.com is your one-stop shop. You can follow us on Twitter. We are at WRRPod. You can search for us on Facebook, Watch Review Repeat. We are on there. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, if you want to be featured on a future edition of the Listener's Corner, just head to just send whatever to watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Look, we've been going for a while, okay? Don't worry about it. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod, licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our next episode, I think we saw the trailer for it a little while back. Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti. Palm Springs, it's a Hulu original, little Groundhog Day action with the wedding type thing. I think that might be our next episode. I think technically also The Old Guard comes out on Netflix, and it looks bad from the first trailer that we saw, so I think we're going to go with the former option. But we'll have something for our listeners. Again, we're
working through it.
We take it week by week at this point. And if Hamilton comes along, it's a big fucking deal, clearly, as evidenced by the length of this episode.
We're crying in the fucking couch. We're crying in the couch.
Okay? And so we have been taking it week by week, and so we really relish the opportunity for some good shit to come along. But we'll take what we can get at this point. I guess I'll say that. So anyway, Anna, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for lending
joining
us your expertise on musicals, on Hamilton, your fun facts. Every bit of insight you have had to offer has been greatly appreciated. So we appreciate you for coming back on, even though you said you might not return on your last appearance. It seems that you did indeed come back, but hopefully we'll see you again.
Turns out I like talking a lot about pop culture with you weirdos.
Yeah, that's
fair. It's a compliment. It's a compliment. Andrew, why don't we go ahead and take us out? The weirder the
Alexander Hamilton.
Oh, he changed it up. Oh my goodness. I'm at a loss.
But I'm doing the Alexander Hamilton like fucking fist pump. Boom.
I truly don't know what to do. Anna, do you have like a way to take us out?
Include women in the sequel.